Welcome to another edition of the PhinManiacs.com podcast. I am your host, Louis Sung. I am back from the draft party that came on yesterday, so I'll be the host this evening. And joining me tonight will be Neil Driscoll. He's the one who made our draft guide, the PhinManiacs draft guide from Neil Driscoll. It's nice to have you on with us, man.
Oh, thank you. Best time of the year. All the holidays of the year wrapped in one. Excited for tonight to see the Dolphins ad, and couldn't be more thrilled coming out of last night.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about from last night. I mean, last night, I was honestly shocked by how everything went last night. I mean, first we hear about the video and the Instagram post for Laramie Tunsil, and then we see guys dropping like flies because of medical issues or one reason or another, and then we hear that this person was drafted this high and this person was drafted this high for no apparent reason other than they just felt like it. So I feel like that this year's first round was probably one of the most unpredictable ones in recent history. Would you agree to that?
I do. It's funny how many mock drafts we all put together, and within 20 minutes of the draft going live, they're all worth nothing. It just for me, the Joey Bosa pick at number 3 was like a curveball. I thought it would definitely have been Tunsil, Buckner, Ramsey, trade back. Definitely did not see Bosa go in there, and then from that it just created a whirlwind of definitely people falling. Eli Apple at 10 was another one. I like Eli Apple. To see him go in the top 10 to me was just kind of crazy considering some of the talent that was there. And then the whole Ronnie Stanley going before Laramie Tunsil. That is something that a lot of people did not see. For Tunsil, I guess that video came out at the absolute worst time. But the Dolphins take advantage of it. Their people did the check, and they get a overall consensus when you see everyone's boards put together. Top 3 player at pick 13 without having to give up any value. I wanted Ezekiel Elliott. There's no doubt about it. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that. I didn't see Jalen Ramsey or Laramie Tunsil as legit, people that would fall into the Dolphins world at 13. So, I didn't ever include them. For me, it was Miles Jack or Ezekiel Elliott. The Tunsil fell. The Dolphins took advantage, and who knows what happens here in the next 30 minutes? Could the Dolphins trade up for Miles Jack?
And that's the. I don't know if they're going to trade up for Miles Jack. I mean, did you hear something about that? Because personally, I don't see that as a very good idea. I mean, now that obviously there's something different now with Dr. James Andrews saying that he won't need microfracture surgery, but
Sure.
that's I don't know. I still not sure if I'm willing to trade up because it feels like I don't know if teams are still wary about Jack. Do you see somebody jumping up to grab him like the Cowboys? Do you see them possibly gonna go for him now since they still need a linebacker?
I do. I think he goes in the first 5 picks of the second round. That clean bill of health from Dr. James Andrews is going to help him a great deal. On NFL Network, Ian Rappaport just came on and said that the Dolphins were one of the teams trying to trade back up for a player. I think there was no secret. Kevin Dodd, Reggie Ragland, and Miles Jack were 3 players the Dolphins brought in for interviews and showed a lot of interest in it. It'll be interesting to see if that's a move they make. But there's a lot of talent on the board. Do they have to even trade up to get a great player? I mean, I have 3 people from my top 10 still on as Miles Jack, Reggie Ragland, and then there's Mackenzie Alexander. Another that fills the Dolphins' biggest need probably at corner. But they have the 11th pick of this second round, and there is no doubt that they're going to get a really good talent here if they play their cards right. So for me, personally, it depends on what that price tag is to get up for Miles Jack. I have Miles Jack as the second best player in this draft. I would love to see Miami make it. I think there's a lot of fire around that knee, and teams are getting scared. But the Dolphins trust their medical staff. I mean, that's one thing about them. They have their faults as an organization, but they trust them. Sometimes it backfires, like the Dante Culpepper situation, which you don't have to dig into. But if they like him, I'd be all for it. It actually would kind of be reminiscent of when the Ravens in 1996 walked away with Jonathan Ogden and Ray Lewis. Not saying Laramie Tunsil and Miles Jack are going to be Hall of Fame, top 5 of the positions of all time, but it kind of reminds me of that.
Well, you're not allowed to say that Ray Lewis is top 5 anything nowadays. So, but I digress. uh, yeah, you know how it is. So So I have a question because honest, like I said, last night was honestly stunning to me. So are we just really bad at evaluating talent, or is there just a lot of stuff that we're not seeing here?
For and it pertains to what?
That
Oh, and just how the draft
we had
falls.
like 4 or 5 guys that we all thought were first rounders, and they just went gone.
I think you got to look at the guys who the experts that do it too. May Kuiper, Matt Miller. It is so tough to project because so many teams like their players like ice cream flavors. One likes vanilla, one likes strawberry, one likes chocolate. It's really hard to predict that. So that's why for me it's always the thing that I like to do is stick to the draft board that I create and read the draft boards that other people's create rather than their mock drafts because then you can see what people really see and really feel about talent. Every year you're wrong more than you're right when it comes to the NFL draft. Um, Something like I keep going back to it because it affects us directly, but you know, you would never have thought Laramie Tunsil would have fallen out of top 10. I would have bet my house on it yesterday at 7 o'clock if someone asked me it. So it's like something happens so crazy social media that pushes them out, and here you go. So you know being an NFL general manager must be a fun job because you get to take some serious risk. And God, it was a crazy. I don't remember a crazier draft than last night. I just things like Darren Lee going to the Jets, where they really need a quarterback. Geno Smith's their quarterback, and Darren Lee's an athletic linebacker. I don't know how a 3-4 pass rushing outside backer, how successful he'll be there. He's a little smaller, but we'll see. I thought he was more of a 4-3, and I didn't see how the 49ers traded back up for Joshua Garnett. Again, I like him. He's a top 3 guard to me, but the trade back with the players that were on the board and take an offensive guard there really had me scratching my head. I think we saw, Dolphin fans, we're looking at cornerbacks. We saw a lot of cornerbacks really come off the board fast. I mean, by the time the Steelers got on and took Artie Burns, 5 corners were off the board. And then a lot of the rumors about Vernon Hargraves and him having some drug issues were turned out to be false, and he fell right into the Buccaneers' lap. They traded back and still got him. What a crazy night! What a crazy night! But again, I can't be more happy as a Dolphins fan with Laramie Tunsil. And this is bold, but I think it's the best first round selection we've had since Dan Marino. Tunsil is a slam dunk pick. He will be the left tackle eventually. More than likely, will start off the left guard. And I know that had the Dolphins fan base up in arms on Twitter. But one thing I'll mention is that Jonathan Ogden, who is probably one of the best offensive tackles I've ever seen, he started his career, his rookie season, and played left guard as well. So, Brandon Albert's a 32-year-old player with a huge cap number. You keep him for this year, but long term, who knows what the cards hold for him. So you win in the trenches in this league. This helps Ryan Tannehill. This helps the running game. This helps everything. And we've all talked about it until we're blue in the face. The Dolphins' offensive line has been this team's Achilles heel for years. When Tannehill has time, the numbers show he's a top 10 passing quarterback in the league. If he doesn't have time, the Dolphins keep being mediocre. Tannehill's mediocre, and they're kind of stuck in quicksand. So uh, stoked on my end.
And I'd like to take this moment to welcome my regular co-host of the show. He's calling in for a little bit, hopefully. So, Chad, nice to see you, man.
Hey, how's it going, Lois?
Not much. We're here with Neil Driscoll. We're talking. We're reviewing last night's draft, and I'm still kind of in shock over the whole thing, actually.
Hey, yeah, it was an interesting draft, that's for sure. So that I thought there were some interesting picks. I still like what the Dolphins did, but I thought there were some reaches in the draft. Like the safeties that went off the board kind of surprised me where they went, and honestly, Bosa going as high as he did surprised me as well.
Yeah, Bosa was probably one of the biggest shockers, and then Eli Apple is a top 10 corner. Neil, which one was more shocking for you, Bosa at 3 or Apple at 10?
I would say Apple at 10, just because I don't think Bosa is a good fit in San Diego, but I thought he was going to go to Jacksonville at 5. I really thought that they missed out on Olivier Vernon, and they wanted that defensive end to kind of finalize the front seven in their defense. So I still thought he was going to go in that range. I liked Eli Apple, and part of me didn't really want the Dolphins to take him at 13, so I was relieved to see him go. I like him. He is really touchy-feely and will draw a lot of penalties in this league if his technique doesn't get much better. That concerns me a great deal. So I was definitely surprised, and I'm going to echo what Chad just said. I think the worst pick of round one was actually Keanu O'Neal going as high as he did. Um, I liked him in late round two. Um, I don't think he was a mid one value. I think that was the biggest reach of the night. And Carl Joseph got a lot of buzz coming up into the draft too. I was surprised to see him go as high as 14. So I agree. Those safeties really went higher. And Darian Thompson and Von Bell are still out there, and I think they're players that are of equal talent to the safeties that went off already. I actually had Darian Thompson as the best free safety, not named Jalen Ramsey in this draft. So very surprised to see those safeties go so high.
It's an interesting situation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in, make sure that you can dial in the number 1-954-376-5704. We'll be taking callers all throughout the night. The draft will start in about 15 minutes, so we're going to be checking out rounds 2 and 3, so we'll be giving live coverage all throughout the night. There's going to be a lot of good talent still coming off the board. So, Neil, if you had to pick somebody, who are you looking at? Not named Miles Jack. Who are you really looking at for to be coming off the board quickly?
Sure. I think that one of the quarterbacks, Hackenberg or Cook, are going to go here early. I think Kevin Dodd's definitely in play for Dallas. Noah Spence is a name I think Jacksonville or Baltimore will pounce on for sure. Those Alabama defensive tackles, Ashawn Robinson and Jaron Reed, have to get some attention soon here. And then I actually think if the Dolphins stay put at 42, the guy that they're going to draft is going to be Derrick Henry, the running back from Alabama. I think they like him. There's concerns that he's a one-speed running back, but people lie, numbers don't. And the production he had at Alabama at that high level of football, I could definitely see them going that route. But Mackenzie Alexander, I think, is going to go to the Chiefs. I think they traded back thinking they could still get him. Andrew Billings is a name that I'm surprised he's still on the board. And then you got the Ohio State receiver Michael Thomas. I could definitely see him coming off the board here very soon. He's that bigger receiver who's going to probably be a better pro player than he was collegiate player. So those are the names I think we're going to hear go pretty quickly here. And then I hear the Broncos are definitely locked in on Braxton Miller if he's there when they pick.
There's going to be a lot of awesome talent. How about you, Chad?
Your question is true. I think the Dolphins are going to take, or
Sure. What do you think about Miami?
I think it all centers around the corners right now. Some of the people I've been talking to, now obviously there's a lot of smoke that flows around, but I've heard that if Jack does fall to 42, Miami's going to take him, stick out Jack. They're comfortable enough with the medical that they'll roll the dice right there. I don't know where their feeling is on Ragland with the heart, and I don't know where they value those corners at. Obviously, McKenzie's going to come off the board sooner or later here. I've heard some people say they're worried about his ability to turn his hips and run with the wide receivers in the NFL, but I don't know how real that is. But as Lewis, from talking to Sam Madison, how important hips are in the corners in the NFL, and so there must be something to it where they value McKenzie at. And so if they don't value a corner as a high second round pick right now, I think they'll probably go linebacker. Henry, I think, would be in play as well. That would shock me. I don't know that they're honed in on him, but it would shock me, I guess. I really think they're going to look, if they're available, at those linebackers, maybe Spence, Ragland, or Miles with their pick.
Yeah, Chad, that's a good call for sure, Chad. And you guys, we got to remember one thing for sure. The Dolphins had visits with Arian Foster, and they've been in contact with Leon Hall. So, if Tannenbaum's going to play this right, he's going to stick to his board and pick the best players. They can fill needs after today. Training camp and the first game in September, it's a long way away. So, the draft is just one component of this. If they leave this draft and they don't address the running back position, Arian Foster is a good counterpart to Jay Ajayi. Leon Hall is a good veteran corner who can play that slot and improve this team. So, drafting off need, sometimes the best player can address a need. And that's when you really win, I think, in the draft, is when you fill a need with one of the better players that are still remaining. So I think stick to the board. When you're there, it's Noah Spence, Reggie Ragland, Miles Jack, Derrick Henry. I mean, top 25 talents like those guys are on the board. You take them. They fill a need. They make you a better football team. But I wouldn't take a corner just to take a corner. Now, Mackenzie Alexander, for me, I had him as a top 10 player in this draft. He might not exactly fit the defensive scheme we have, and he didn't get any interceptions at Clemson, which really, really hurts him. But the guy would allow 2 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons that he played at Clemson. So he's got skill. He's definitely the best corner remaining. And they also love that corner from Baylor, Xavier Howard. So I don't know if they go him in round 2, but in round 3, if that guy's hanging around, I could totally see him being a player who's in play for the Dolphins.
Well, technically, you're right, Neil. You could be right anyway. Mackenzie Alexander could still be a top 10 pick. It's just you got the wrong round.
Yeah. That's right. As long as I can use whiteout, I'll be in good shoes, right?
Yeah. I think it should be noted that Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, just reported that the Dolphins are one of 5 teams or so trying to trade up to the top of the second. So, Neil, you were the one who said that first on Twitter, I believe. So, props to you on that. If Miami's trading up, we have to assume that it's either for Jack or Alexander, because those are the 2 first rounders that everybody knows about that got bumped out of there.
Yeah, if they trade up, I'm telling you, it's for Miles Jack. They loved him. He was on their board high. They got scared, with these medicals. I think they wanted to take something a little more secure. I don't think they thought he was going to be here at this point. This would be, you walk away with Laramie Tunsil and Miles Jack, and you have changed the foundation of this football team. You're no longer relying on guys that you bring in like Kiko Alonso, who I do like. But these guys are impact players early on. Miles Jack can do it literally all. I mean, he is as athletic as it gets. I love that he went out and posted a video of him dunking that basketball today. Kind of like, you passed on me. You guys are making a mistake. The knee looks pretty good to me. The guy moves sideline to sideline. He can hit. He can cover. He can rush the passer. Hell, if you give him the football, he could run the football. I would be partying all night tonight if they get Miles Jack. That is for sure. I think they're trying to make a move. It all comes down to, what is that price. If it costs them the second rounder for next year, personally, I would do it, but I could see why they would not do it. It's a steep price to pay to move up, 10 spots in round 2. That's why we love the draft, though. We get to see and sit back and watch, and we always hope for the players we want. We always gravitate towards the big names, but there's a lot of good talent out there.
If I'm Miami, I think I would probably disagree with your stance on it, just Neil, because just the idea of giving up the second rounder for next year. I mean, I understand that Jack is that kind of a talent, but his just because he's showing that his knee is okay now, and dunking a basketball when you're like a 6'2" athlete, I mean, it's kind of reminiscent to me of Jordan Phillips doing a backflip. How much does that really matter in the long run? I mean, like, good for Jordan Phillips. He's athletic, but it didn't really show up on the field as much as we would have liked last season. So maybe he just needs more time to develop, but it wasn't like, oh, this guy was a complete stud that we were hoping for. Jack, I've never wavered in my desire to have Miles Jack be a Miami Dolphin, but the fact that we would have to give up something like our second rounder to move up and get Jack, that kind of bothers me, especially since Miami is. I don't know if they view it this way, but I see them as in a rebuilding year. There's a lot of pieces that still need to be moved, and it's not the right time to do that. Like, Albert is expensive. We need to move on from him now that we have Tunsil. We have
Sure.
we have guys like maybe Ryan Tannehill. I don't know. We'll see what happens with him. So we don't know if we're going to have to move on from him anytime soon. Cam Wake is going to have to be moved on from. So we're going to need new pass rushers after next year, probably. We're going to need new tackles. We're going to need new this. We're going to need new that. We're in a rebuilding mode. And if we're giving up draft picks to go get one guy, even if it's somebody as dynamic as Jack, the fact that I don't know what his knee's going to be like in 1, 2, 3, or even if he does last as long as 5 years, I don't. There's no way I can definitively say that I'm comfortable giving up draft picks to get somebody that he may only last 3 years.
Sure, and I understand the concern, and I'll play devil's advocate. They said a lot of things about C.J. Mosley's knees coming out of Alabama, and said that they were worried about a degenerative knee condition for him, and he's played his first 2 seasons at Pro Bowl level and hasn't missed a snap. So I understand the concern, and trading draft picks is a way to really put yourself in hot water. But I think one thing worth mentioning is they will get another 3 for losing Olivier Vernon, and they'll get another 5th for losing Lamar Miller. And they don't have the same value as a second round pick. But is there a player on defense next year not named Myles Garrett who could be a more impactful defender than Myles Jack? And that's the thing that they got to battle in their head. The Dolphins won't be bad enough to get Leonard Fournette or Myles Garrett next year. If I doubt that they're ready to move on from Tannehill. I think Tannehill's going to have a decent season, and improving the line's going to help. And we could do 5 shows in a row talking about Ryan Tannehill. So we'll say that. So for me personally, I just think Myles Jack is that kind of defensive player that is like a Khalil Mack impact player, and that's just how I view him. He might fall into our laps at 42 though. So that's why get some popcorn, sit back, grab your favorite cold beer, and every pick that goes before us and the name's not Myles Jack will make me happy. But I'll tell you this right now, Reggie Ragland will be one hell of a consolation prize. That guy is a thumper in the middle. He's a smart football player. He's a leader. He plays sideline to sideline. And I know that they just said today that 11 teams said that they have no issue with Reggie Ragland's enlarged aorta. So if you get one of those 2 guys here, the Dolphins have had an A-plus draft through 2 rounds. And I'd say Derrick Henry and Noah Spence are the other guys that can make it an A-plus draft for them here if they get one of those guys here in round 2.
Chad, you still with us, man?
Yeah, I'm just listening to you guys. I everything you guys are saying, it makes sense. I think some of the points to just as I've thought about the way that the draft's unfolding, and it's the running back position. I think Neil's got a great point. I think they are interested to see what happens to Arian Foster, and I know there were a lot of people that were clamoring to get Elliott, but the point I've been making for a few days is I think they're more than comfortable giving Ajayi 10 to 15 carries every game. And so what they're looking for right now for running back is a guy that can carry 5 to 10 carries. Henry would be a great complement because he'd be a power runner in there. So they could use him, but I don't think they're in any urgent need to go grab it back because I feel like they can probably get it back in the 3rd or 4th round. That would be more than adequate to carry the ball 5 to 10 times a game. And with that, the running back class in next year's draft looks substantially better. And so I don't feel like they're in a mode where they feel like they got to go get Henry. It wouldn't shock me if they take him, but like I said, I think they're comfortable with Ajayi getting 60 to 70% of the carries. So they're just looking for a 30% of the carries guy, and so that makes that a lot easier for them to fill that. The linebacker situation, I think what you're seeing with Mike Tannenbaum is a change in philosophy. And so, a lot of teams always love to say, we're going to take the best player available, but you teams always take the best player available. A lot of times you still end up having to fill your need. And with the Dolphins, they've been doing that for a long time. And you got to look at, as a fan and as a team, they've made the playoffs in 2008, and it's been hardly anything. This has been a marginal at best team for going on 2 decades. And so the way you get marginal is you get average players. And so what Mike Tannenbaum has realized with players is I don't need average players anymore. I don't need starters. I need Pro Bowlers. That's how we're going to get to the playoffs. That's why he paid all the big money to go get the Dominic Sue. He's one of the top defensive tackles in the game. That's why they just pulled the trigger on Laremy Tunsil, even though it wasn't a direct need. It was an unbelievable value, and you're getting a franchise Pro Bowl caliber left tackle. That's why I think they're going to make a hard push for Myles Jack, even though there's risk. Myles Jack's talent level on what he can do and what he's done on the field is a Pro Bowl caliber linebacker. Now, they could easily go with McKenzie. I think McKenzie is. You could argue that he's just as good as any quarterback that went after Ramsey. I would argue he's just as likely to succeed as Eli Apple or William Jackson or any of those guys. But I look at Philip McKenzie and I say I don't see a guy who's going to come in, be the next Darrelle Revis or anything like that. I mean, he's probably just a guy who can start at corner. What if he's the 20 to somewhere between 50 to 20 best cornerback in the NFL? That's an average corner. That's your recipe to be 8-8. I think if you want to be a team that's going to win long term, you got to get Pro Bowl caliber players. And getting Miles Jack is exactly that kind of a move. Because I do believe he's one of the few players left in this draft that, again, isn't just somebody you can bring that's starting capable. He's capable of being a dominant player in the league. So I have to imagine they're looking to trade up. I think they have the ammunition to trade up if you're looking at future picks because they do have the extra comp pick. I don't know from where Miami's at. I don't know that it would take a second rounder to move up. I mean, they're only going to be moving up. It depends who they're talking to, what position is. Miles Jack's available, who they make the trade with. But if you're jumping, say, anywhere from 5 to 10 spots, I would imagine like a third or fourth round pick would probably get that done, depending on what other teams are competing for. But if there's other teams in the mix to trade up, it's not necessarily Miles Jack either. There's, Neil pointed out, there's some very talented players. Defensive tackles that you can bring in and start in this league are hard to get your hands on in the second round. There's a few of those available right now. There are the other linebackers available. Ragland, he's no chump. Bringing Ragland in and putting him in that linebacker mix would be fun too. But I mean, you just got to think if Miles Jack is able to play at that level, he's healthy, what you can do from a team standpoint. Because Chico Alonso is fully capable of being a middle linebacker. He's fully capable of being a weak side linebacker. I think Miles Jack can play any three linebacker position. The guy's 245 pounds. He can cover like a safety. He can stuff the run. I mean, you could have him play anywhere in the linebacking course. You can come up to the line of scrimmage. You get to throw some really complex schemes in there with not even knowing who's going to be the mic on a given play because you've got linebackers that you can interchange in there right now that can do it all. So I'm in love with the idea of getting him, but whether or not I have to imagine it's competitive right now for Miles Jack. Once you get in that second round, the injury risk is just worth it. I mean, there's just too much upside to that guy.
Yeah. Hey, guys, I had to jump off here, but thanks for having me on. But I totally agree with Chad. If you get Miles Jack for this draft, they got my second and third best players in Tunsil and Jack. And getting those kind of impact players is kind of how to get yourself from being mediocre and get yourself over the hump. But happy draft night to you guys, and I will definitely talk to you guys soon.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on with us.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
So it's just you and me for now, Chad. The draft is about to begin.
All right, so I don't have the board in front of me. I'm traveling right now, so I don't know who's is there the pick pretty much the same order from yesterday. First overall is the Titans. Is that the
Yes,
pick?
the Titans go first, and then I need to let me actually just pull it up here so I don't guess my way through it. I know the Titans go first, but I need to check real quick. Okay.
Well, while you're doing it, one comment I was going to make on the draft, I don't think I discussed much, is I thought one of the biggest losers of this draft so far has been the Jets. Now, I'll be upfront, I'm biased because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I don't understand what the Jets are doing. The Jets right now, they've got to have Brian Packer sign a contract. He's got all the leverage in the world now. And when this draft, came into it, I thought there's really only one quarterback that was left, after the moves that were made prior to the draft, and that was Paxton Lynch. And, as you know, Lewis, I've been saying either Denver or the Jets need that guy because they do not have a quarterback to build around right now. You can't feasibly expect to sell your fan base and your team on we're going to go into 2016 with Mark Sanchez as their quarterback or Geno Smith as their quarterback. And the Jets have the ability to get him, and I'm not knocking Darren Lee. There's nothing wrong with him. He's an amazing athlete. But, I mean, as a person who's watched a lot of football games, I just don't see Darren Lee being the difference between you being a successful franchise franchise and not being a successful franchise. And that was their chance to grab Paxton Lynch. And Denver moving up in that back end of that draft to get Paxton Lynch was a great move by them because they had to get the guy. You know, even if he doesn't work out, you got to roll the dice to see if you can get your franchise quarterback. And the Jets just let it go right on by. So that is still a shocker to me at this point.
Oh, and Chad, I feel like I need to mention real quick. It's actually the Browns who get to go first. They get the 32nd pick, which is technically would have been the Patriots pick last night, but that didn't work out. So, yeah, you know.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure because I know they kind of do a snake type system where if you have the same record, you'll jump up ahead in the next round if you didn't get it high in the first round. So I wasn't sure of that. So the Browns, there was another team. They've got a pile of picks, so they can go a lot of directions. But I was thinking, gosh, they traded back, they picked up those picks, and then they go ahead and they take that receiver. And I'm thinking, is that receiver? The Browns need a quarterback. They really do for the future. So I guess they're all in on RG3. They're going to go with him this year. But I thought that was interesting that they didn't take Paxton Lynch either and throw him in with the next because they have the luxury to do it now. All the picks. So we'll have to see. So just trying to figure out what the Browns are going to do. I have to imagine they're going to take one of those solid defensive players. I don't think they're really much of a risk for McKenzie. I just don't feel like that's who they're targeting. But Miles Jack, pretty much every pick that's coming up now, Miles Jack is who I'm going to think well.
Well, Miles Jack isn't going to be at the draft. He's going to be in his hotel room. So the poor guy is really bummed out. So I feel bad for him in that regard. So
I love that getting players like that. That's another reason I want him because those guys come in and they have a chip on their shoulder right out of the gate that they want to prove everybody wrong. But past them, I want to be proving the other teams wrong, not proving the Dolphins wrong.
I'm trying to let me see if I can. I'm trying to make sure that I don't get an echo in the show, but I'm trying to hear what Roger Goodell is saying. The Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner is coming on the stage with him.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Zonka. They're introducing the people who's gonna.
Yeah, Zonka's doing this pick, right?
For Miami.
I heard that before.
Well, you couldn't pick a much better player, so.
No, that's pretty good. It's Zonka.
You think that's an indication? Larry Zonka, Derrick Henry, just
Well, I don't. Like I said, I don't think they're going Henry. Unless it's draft, it just depends how it falls. My thought would be Miles Jack would be the absolute pick. And I've heard from a few people that usually are pretty good on information that he falls to them at 42. They'll take Miles Jack. I think there's a real chance if Braglin's there, they'll take him as well. I think they're tired of having a linebacker core that's a weakness. They want to get it fixed. And I don't know that the corners that are on the board stand out to scream. There's a value corner on the board other than McKenzie in my mind. So if Jack is gone, Braglin's gone, and McKenzie's gone, then I would think Henry would be in play because he's a guy that would fit well with Jai, but I don't think I could put him above those other guys. And the rumors are true. They're trying to trade up. They're not trying to trade up for Henry, I don't think, unless they're really worried about somebody else grabbing him. But I thought the only team that was realistically going to target him was Dallas in that early second round. So with they have LA now, obviously, so they're off the next for Henry. So I don't think he's going to be the Dolphins pick.
Oh, Paul Warfield is there too.
Is he doing the Browns pick or the Dolphins?
Oh, I didn't even think about that actually. Yeah, probably the Browns.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's doing the Browns.
Yeah, because Zonka's gonna do the Dolphins, obviously. So I guess that leaves Warfield for the Browns.
Yeah, they're all buddies though.
I can't imagine they're. Well, actually, I can't imagine. They're probably. I figured like once the second and third rounds come, and then the later rounds, it starts going real fast. So I guess what they're doing is for stalling. They're trying to see if anybody's willing to trade up and give them more picks because Cleveland seems desperate for more picks.
I don't know what the Jets quarterback board looks like, but I can tell you right now the Jets desperately need a quarterback. So whether it's Hecklenberg, did I say that right?
It's Hackenberg, yes.
Butchered his name for 2 days now. Our kind of cook. I don't know where the Jets value those second tier quarterbacks, but um, they're sitting back in the back third right now of this second round, and if they have a guy that they're worried, it wouldn't shock me that Jets are trying to get up to get that quarterback right now. And if they have one that they've had targeted, I don't see how they can afford to let that guy go off the board right now. They just have too good a team. The Jets are they're a decent. They have a decent squad, and so to come into a season without your quarterback, and to me that sounds like a good way to go 7-9, 8-8, and then not be able to get a quarterback again the following year in the draft if you're just not up with the top pick.
Well, right now, I can't really think of much else to say until we get our first pick in because at this point, I'm just holding my breath. Is it going to be Miles Jack? Are they going to trade down? Is somebody going to make the
Well,
jump up there?
At this point, the Browns are dangerous because I don't see them trading down really. They've already acquired a pile of picks.
But
So
I think somebody said they wanted more. I don't know who though.
well, you can never have enough picks in terms of the salary cap and getting your team rebuilt. But I'm guessing they're asking for like a first round pick or something. Otherwise, they're going to take this player because they got to start getting the players on their team more than there's a bunch of mid round picks or something. So
Well,
I have to think the Browns can take about anybody they want because I don't think anybody's under the delusion that the Browns are a Super Bowl contender right now. So they're looking just to build a foundation for their football team. So they can really go anywhere right now. They're just probably going to go best player
hey
available.
Chad, the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns war room just got shown on the screen. It seems they are shaking hands all over the place. So I think
Well, they did.
I think they just did something that I think they're real happy about.
Oh, that just means they're picks in. So somebody they wanted.
They seem very happy. I don't like when other teams are really happy because that means that
Well,
we're about to be
that does
very
tell you
disappointed.
that tells you they're not trading. They didn't trade the pick. They selected a player.
Yep, the pick is in. Okay, let's see who it is. Yeah, they're very, very happy with. They're very proud of themselves for whatever it is that they did.
Everybody's always proud of themselves up the pick. If you're like going, oh my god, I can't believe we took this guy, you got problems.
Yeah, I know, but it kind of hurts a little bit because you see all these guys and it's like who
Yeah,
did they take that we're not gonna have?
I think keeping it in perspective, I think the chance that Jack falling to the Dolphins is unlikely. If you're hoping for that,
Yes, I'm hoping for that.
I wouldn't count out. They do have the ammunition to move up. It just depends on which spot. And so if Miles Jack is available in 3 or 4 picks from now, I think the Dolphins might be a play to jump up there, grab him. But my thought on who's going to take Miles Jack is the Cowboys. I think that's the most likely place he's going to get taken is the Cowboys. But we'll see. Cowboys still need some pass rushers, so Kevin Dodd would make a lot of sense with the Cowboys. But we'll see.
Okay, I know who the pick is, but I don't know if I want to spoil it or not because we probably have listeners who are like, "Oh, we're watching too. Don't spoil it."
Oh no, we were as soon as we had the pick, we were letting listeners know as soon as possible. Give them the convenience to know. Who's the pick, Lewis?
You want us to spoil? You want me to spoil
Yeah,
it?
I would every time you find it out, I'd announce it. So
Okay, the initials are EO.
Are what?
The initials are EO.
Oh, I don't know. You got me.
Um, it's I believe he's a pass rusher. He's on the defensive line. That I do know.
Okay.
Oh my God, the pick is in. What are we waiting for? Could they be making this shirt?
I don't have. Since I'm traveling, I don't have any list in front of me. So I can't look up names right now.
They're probably making the shirt or something. I don't know.
That's right. That makes sense. I mean, for the Browns, they got that skill player. Their first round pick, they grabbed a receiver. They're clearly focus on RG3 for the quarterback this year. So they need to start picking up players.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead because I see Twitter spoiling it for everybody. So the Browns picked pass rusher Emmanuel Ogba.
Oh, okay. That's a good buy pick for them. That's right now the most. For the Dolphins, they're not in desperate need for defensive line help, in my opinion. I mean, they're going to need help next year with Wake and Mario Williams getting older. But for value right now, there's some quality defensive linemen in the draft. That was one of them right there for the Browns. That's a smart pick. For the Cleveland fans, it'd be nice if they start doing some smart stuff for a change.
So much booing.
Grabbing a foolish player right now and getting a sure defensive line. They need it. You got to have solidified lines in the or the AFC North to compete with teams like the Ravens, Steelers that play national football. All right, so does that mean the Titans are now on the board?
Paul Warfield. Yep, he's doing the Browns.
Okay.
Okay, Armando's just spoiling everything. Okay.
That's what Armando does.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it this time. It's like, no, it's too soon. Cleveland's still doing it on the screen.
He's a good guy, but he likes to be the first to get it out.
So there you go. The Browns got another first round pick for all intents and purposes. Pick
Oh, yeah, I
32
mean,
is
you are. When you're in the upper second round like this.
pick. No. But it's like pick number 32. Technically, that's New England's pick.
All right. The Titans are on the Titans have 6 minutes right now. My tech assistant here, I eat my wife because allow me is allowed me to use her phone to watch this thing.
That's cheap. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Emmanuel Ogba for the Cleveland Browns. They got themselves another pass rusher. So Miami will need pass rushers eventually, but not this year. Where it's again, we're in the rebuilding mode. We can't try to knock out every single thing right away. We might as well take what we have right now, who are talented. So that means Cam Wake is going to be around for one more year, and then we'll probably have to take a pass rusher first up and in the first or second round next season, because if not, we're gonna have a serious problem on our hands, because unless Deion Jordan works out, which again I am not assuming will happen, um, they're actually comparing Ogba to Everson Griffin, I think his name is. So in any case, Miami has to take this whole rebuilding the defense thing one step at a time. There's no way we're going to be able to get it all in one shot. So a pass rusher, if we wound up getting a Noah Spence, that would be okay. If we wound up getting somebody like Miles Jack, I'd be very happy. The linebacker core needs almost as much help as the defensive line does, and obviously the defensive line needs help. Every position needs help. So I'm not gonna. So Tennessee didn't waste any time.
So the Titans they got their linemen last week, so they solidified their offensive line. I just don't know the Titans well enough to know. I feel like maybe McKenzie would be a fit for them. I don't know what their defensive backfield looks like. That could kind of make sense right here for the Titans. They can go in a lot of different directions. They got the extra pick too, so I think you're probably going to see in the mix of these upgrade picks, you're going to see a run on D linemen, because there's two or three starting caliber D tackles still on the board. Those are very valuable guys. So you'll probably see them come off. Jack, of course, is in the mix. He can play any linebacker. I think Franklin's going to be a team specific pick. They got to want to have a heavy run thumping middle linebacker and some of the defensive teams they play. So it'll depend on team fit for Franklin, I think.
Yeah, this show's gonna be we're gonna have a lot of waiting this time around, huh?
You will early on here because there's some valuable players on the board, and there's some teams in the back half of this draft that know they need to get up there first. I mean, there's starter caliber players right now on the board. teams that want to fill those needs are, weighing those against the picks. So if you're a team that is trying to make a run for the playoffs, this is where you trade your pick to come up against these guys. And if you're a team that's just full rebuild mode, this is where you're looking to pick up extra second and third round picks right now. So that's what's going on. I do disagree that the Dolphins are in rebuilding mode. So I think they've just completely changed their philosophy. I don't think they're trying to limit the amount of average players they bring on their team that they'll need versus getting Pro Bowl level players. And the more Pro Bowl level players you put on your team, in the long run, the better you are. But I don't. If they were retooling, you'd be getting rid of players like Cameron Wake. You wouldn't be bringing on Mario Williams. I think they're trying to be a competitive football team, but they're just not reaching anymore. They've been reaching so bad for years on free agents and draft picks to try to plug a hole to keep their team competitive. And I think now they're just not doing that. So that's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But it's not an all-in approach for sure. I think it's somewhere between a rebuild and a team that's trying to make the Super Bowl next season. The Dolphins are not making moves to try to make 2016 to be the best possible season. They're trying to build a team that over the coming years will get better and better and better.
All right, so here come the Tennessee Titans pick, and also we have another guy coming in, caller Tom Shannon. So Tom, welcome to the show, man.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
How's it going, boys?
So what do you think about what's going on so far?
Well, are you talking about tonight or the whole darn ball of wax?
Well, we'll start with the whole darn ball of wax, and then I'll probably have to cut you off for just a second when we actually get to hear what the Titans pick is, or rather, well, actually, you know what? Let me just go ahead and wait and see what the Titans pick, and then we can talk about it. Oh, they have Javon Curse giving up the pick for the Titans.
Oh, the old DN?
Uh-huh. Oh, it's Kevin
Cowboys,
Dodd.
you're on the spot. Kevin Dodd.
Well, that's a good pick. He could have been a first rounder. I think we're going to be saying that about a lot of the guys at the top of this round, right?
Seems like.
Yeah, as I was saying to Lewis, Tom, I think the serious value right now for a majority of these teams are the D linemen. They're starting to come off the board now, but it's not common to get into the second round and have starting caliber D tackles at the ends on the board. And teams are starting to grab them right now. So Kevin Dodd is I honestly thought Kevin Dodd graded out just the same exact level as Shaq did. So I think it's a great pick by the Titans to go grab Dodd here. I think he's a solid defensive end prospect for him.
I honestly thought he could have gone anywhere from 11 all the way back through the second round. He was a hard guy to get a handle on, but he's a big dude. I think he's really long, and that makes him really valuable, I think, in today's game. Probably got good long arms. I know he's not nice and tall. He looks like the kind of guy that might be able to develop into something, especially if you're going to run him, with a four-man line, any kind of a 4-3 front. Even if it's in sub packages, he might be real valuable in. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree.
Dallas already got their pick in. They're already coming up to the podium.
This is where I think Miles Jack's going with. I think Dallas is targeting him. So
Don't hurt.
Yeah, I've been hearing Dallas was going to take Jack. He's available.
Don't do this to me, Chad.
I'm trying to prep you because I don't think he's going to make it to the Dolphins. I had him going to the Cowboys.
No, you don't. You're gonna don't you go breaking my heart. Michael Irvin's gonna give up.
They need a defensive line help, and I thought Dodd might go to the Cowboys. If Dodd gone now, I don't know. I don't know who's left for defensive ends that can rush the passer right now. That they can start out.
Oh, I can't
Jalen
believe
Smith.
It. Oh, that is idiotic. Oh, I can't believe this. If I'm a Cowboys fan,
Jalen
so
Smith.
mad.
Who did?
Dallas picked Jalen Smith.
Oh, the linebacker?
Yes.
That is shocking.
I can't believe he went before the fourth round. I can't believe it.
How did he take him before Miles Jack?
Uh,
I guess they're thinking that Jalen Smith's injury could heal and Jax is gonna fall apart eventually.
well,
Well,
I mean,
they're obviously they're both injury risk, but Jalen Smith is hands down not going to even play this coming season.
I
That's shocking.
this
Absolutely
is a
shocking.
humongous risk. Humongous. I got to tell you guys, I work at a medical center. I know a little bit about nerve injuries, and they're a real iffy thing. I mean, he could come back all the way. It's possible, but there's a reasonable chance that thing never comes back. I can't believe he went this early. I am shocked that he went. A guy that is just such a huge risk where you literally just flip a coin and you don't know. I don't know how you take a guy like that in the second round. I don't care how talented he is. I mean, I would have thought Miles Jack way before him. I am stunned by this pick.
Yeah, I had him taking Jack. So I had no way they would. I mean, you probably know this. I'm like, when you get nerve damage, those nerves are not like other parts of your body. They don't necessarily heal or come back. It's not like a torn muscle or even a repaired ligament. No,
Well,
no
it's not that.
certainty of all Jalen's just going to be able to play ever.
There's no treatment for it. I mean, it's not like a muscle injury or a bone injury where you do surgery and you can examine the injury and you can do something to make it better. With a nerve injury, you're entirely at the mercy of the body's ability to repair it. And you just don't know if that's going to happen or not. I mean, it's literally a coin flip. I would have never touched him this early anywhere close. I can't believe they did it. I don't know what their doctors are telling them, but
no, and especially with the linebackers on the board. I mean, Miles Jack, Reggie Ragland, Spence is on. Yeah. I mean, they have starting ready linebackers on the board right now. Even. So that's a shocking pick. So they must have some information from their medical staff that they feel really good about. That's all I could say.
You must be right. I'm very surprised. We'll find out. Either somebody's really, really smart or they're really, really dumb. And I guess we won't know for a couple of years, but we're going to find out.
Yeah, that'll be a pick that gets followed for a while. So, our Chargers, I don't believe the Chargers are a big threat to take Miles Jack. Not that they might based on best player on the board, but they've got some pretty good linebackers in San Diego. They've invested in the position the last few years. Te'o and those type of guys. So they took Boza in the first round to get a defensive player as well. They could use some help on the line. I think they could use a D tackle. I don't see the Chargers with the luxury right now to go take Miles Jack because one, if he has risk, and two, I don't think it's a position of need for him.
Yeah, we keep hearing that they need O-line, but they've got both tackles under contract with, I think, significant.
Yeah, I don't think they would necessarily take an O tackle. They might take a guard here. They might take a D tackle here. They might take a McKenzie could be in play here, but I just don't see them taking Miles Jack right now with the way they have it. So definitely a trade possibility. So now that we're getting into the third, fourth pick of the second round, if Miami's serious about moving up, this is where you want to be doing it.
Hey guys, we have the Chargers pick coming in.
Okay.
All right, who we got? Hunter Henry, so that's the first tight end off the board.
He might be the only tight end. I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, I just said that pick makes sense for him with Antonio Gates getting up there in age. That makes complete sense. Ravens, I don't think the Ravens are a huge threat for Miles Jack either. They've got C.J. Mosley there. That's not bad. I just don't see them going that direction right now. The Ravens got their offensive lineman last round. They brought in Mike Wallace, the wide receiver, trying to think of where they might need help. That's great. Is Forsett still their primary running back for the Ravens?
Their primary guy isn't that what's his name? I can't think of the name right now. It's on the tip of my. I know who it is, but I can't think of the name.
I wasn't sure it was Justin Forsett or not. The Ravens, but
Oh, the Jackson. They trade. I think Jacksonville just traded up, or were they already there? Because I thought I
oh, the
saw
Ravens are
Baltimore.
on the clock.
No, they
So
Jacksonville's pick is in, and then I see Baltimore underneath Kansas City. So I guess Jack's traded up. Uh-oh.
that
Jack's
they want
traded
Miles
up for
Jack.
Jack. They did,
Yeah,
didn't
I would
they? Oh
imagine
my
they
God!
did.
Don't do this to me.
Yeah, they probably did.
They were definitely looking at. They were targeting Jack in the first round. So that more than likely is for Miles Jack if they traded up.
Don't go breaking my heart.
Their number one need, arguably, is outside linebacker. So
So that makes complete sense.
it's entirely possible that that's what they're going to do.
Uh,
That's all right. I don't think that the odds were really good. He was going to fall that far anyway.
No, I've been trying to prepare a little this whole time that Jack is not going to make it all the way to 42 anyway. So.
I really don't think you have anything to worry about, Luis. You guys are the Dolphins are going to get a good player here. I mean, I think there are too many good players left over from the first round to where they're they'll find somebody pretty good.
I'm sure they'll find somebody pretty good, but they're not going to find Miles Jack.
Well,
I've been wanting Miles Jack ever since the draft process started.
Well, there's a reason why every team passed on him the first time around. So,
I'd love to see him there too, but I'm kind of with you. I don't know if I want to give up. It just depends what the asking price was, but I wouldn't want to give up a ton to get up to get it for a few of those picks with the players that are on the board.
Yeah, Miles Jack is an interesting case just in that, they keep talking about how bad the cartilage is and how it's separating from the bone and there's fluid, blah, 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 blah. But he played all season last year, didn't he? And, I mean, it's not like he's coming off injury where he ended the season, on the bench. So I don't know. Obviously, he can play with me as it is, no matter what kind of shape it's in. Am I wrong about that? I think he did. So I don't really know, but there's definitely something that's alarming everybody about this. But I'm virtually certain I'll be surprised if he doesn't come off the board here. Mackenzie Alexander is still on the board. He'd be an awful nice addition in Miami. I think some cornerback help would be really nice, and I wouldn't be in the least bit surprised if they didn't try to trade up.
Yeah, I think Miami is interested. I mean, I was making the point earlier with Alexander that after Ramsey, to me, he's just as likely to succeed in the NFL as any of those other corners that went in the first round. So Alexander to me was right in there with him, and so there's not much left after him for corners. If you're looking at a cornerback you feel like you can put on the field as a starter for this season, Kenzie Alexander is one of the last ones left. So I have to think Miami's looking at it.
Who's their Jaguar? You're talking about some relatively recent history here. I don't recognize who that is at the podium. Fred Taylor.
Yeah, Fred Taylor's their guy. Here it comes. Oh, my heart.
Poor Lewis.
Oh, Miles Jack, no. Miles Jack, no. No. Rashad Jones 2.0 is gone.
He didn't even bother.
If they were moving up.
Well, I guess
I
go ahead.
He didn't even bother to come to the draft, so he obviously didn't have any good idea where he was going to go. I think if he'd have known he was going to go in the first 3 picks, maybe he might have come and went ahead and enjoyed himself a little bit. But I think probably yesterday was such a disappointment. And who knows? He just didn't have any idea where he was going to go, and I didn't either. But I think he's going to be a good player. I'll be interested to see just how serious this medical thing is.
All right, we got a caller on the line. Caller, reveal yourself, please.
Hey guys, it's Max.
Max, I actually, this is not, this isn't Max Himmelrich though.
No. Max Marcella from Jet Fuel.
Nice to see you, man. Thanks for coming
Hey,
on.
how's it going? Oh, of course. Thanks for having me.
So, what do you think of the draft so far, man? It's pretty wild so far, I think.
Crazy, yeah. I mean, in the first, 30 minutes of the second round, we have both the injured linebackers going. So there's the headlines right there. But with last night with Laramie Tunsil, which I'm sure you guys have covered extensively,
Yeah.
it's been a crazy 24 hours. The draft's lived up to the hype.
And what do you think about your Jets pick? I don't. A lot of people were saying, at least on this show, that you guys needed to go get Paxton Lynch, and it wasn't a good idea to let him get by.
Yeah, I wouldn't have disliked if the Jets took Lynch at 20, but I like the guy the Jets got, Darren Lee. I think he fits that mold of the fast young linebackers that the Jets were looking for. Last year they had Demario Davis and Calvin Pace off the edge. It was a very old and slow group. So getting a guy who, has that sideline-to-sideline speed, as they say, can cover tight ends and running backs, I think he can be a good pick for the Jets. But he's a raw prospect, so it'll be interesting to see how Todd Bowles, who's the defensive specialist, can work with him.
All right, so Kansas City's pick is in. No idea what I don't know much about Kansas City as a whole, so I have no idea what they're going for.
Kansas City's hard to judge. It would shock me if they're looking defensive tackle. It would shock me if they're looking Philip McKenzie, the D-back. I believe they lost Sean Smith, right?
Yeah, Sean Smith went to. I'm trying to remember where.
The Raiders. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, it was the Raiders. The Raiders, yeah.
Yeah, so I would think McKenzie's going to play at this pick. If the D tackle makes sense for Kansas City.
Well, Miami just traded up from 42 to 38.
There you go.
Miami.
So they're
Yeah, but who are they going for?
I have to think McKenzie is who they're going for.
I do too.
They have a definite need to get there.
Okay, so
who's
after
Kansas City,
Miami now, it's going to be Miami now.
Yeah, I have to believe they're looking for a cornerback. I think that's going to be a defensive lineman. So, I mean, that'd be my guess. There are a lot of good ones left on the board, and it's a need for them. And then I think we're going to see Miami take the best cornerback available. I have to believe that's Alexander.
Or Reggie Ragland finally fixed the linebackers.
That could be
That's a
regular.
possibility. I wouldn't like that pick quite so much, but, that's possible. Chris Jones,
Who picked after the Chiefs?
Chris Jones just went to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Who'd Miami trade with?
From 42, so that means 38,
Baltimore.
39, 40, 41, 40. Chicago?
No, I think they traded with Baltimore. They were behind Chicago. I think.
Well, who would have been 42?
Oh, Chicago might be at 42, but Miami, I thought they traded.
We traded to 38.
Up.
We did. We traded to 38.
Right.
From 42 to 38.
Miami's 42. Miami was 42.
Yeah,
so
Miami was 42.
Who's behind the Ravens then?
Tampa Bay.
Miami and the Ravens. What's that?
So Tampa Bay is after Baltimore, and now that means we're up next.
Yeah, so Tampa could not be a threat for McKenzie.
They must have made that trade with Baltimore.
Yeah, Miami's on the clock now. I have no idea who they're targeting, to be honest, guys. They clearly want to get in front of Tampa and Chicago then.
Well, the Giants certainly took their cornerback in the first round. So they must have been worried about Tampa Bay. Chicago might have taken
Tampa wasn't going to take a corner. They brought in Grimes, and then they went and got Hargreaves in the first round. I doubt they were going to go corner.
Chicago may have taken Alexander. They need cornerback help, but they need defensive line help really bad. And there's some really good ones left on the board. So,
there are definitely good D linemen on the board, but I don't know that Miami's making a move for one right now. But
I
He must have been
just
working in Chicago.
I just saw from Ian Wharton, Miami traded their 4th rounder to move up.
Yeah, that's about right. That's kind of what I was thinking. For
I'm kind
price.
of surprised. Yeah, well, I don't know. That's a pretty good jump, I guess. It's about 5 spots.
If it's for a starting corner or a starting linebacker, that's worthwhile. Because you're not going to get that in the 4th.
Okay, Armando just spoiled it for me. So, do you want me to say it now, or do you want us to wait?
No,
It's up
let's
to you.
have it.
Huh?
Armando's been, I think he likes to pick wings off of butterflies. He's been tipping picks for 2 days now. It kind of upsets me. But yeah, you might as well go ahead.
It's a defensive back from Baylor, Howard.
Oh, Xavier Howard. Yeah, that was their other corner. He's a big corner. Which
Well,
fits
they
their
certainly
scheme.
do need size. There's no doubt about that.
So no Mackenzie Alexander still.
That's interesting.
Well,
I would have thought
figured it had to be a
Alexander would go
corner.
first.
I didn't know. They must have had suspicion that somebody was going to take Howard before he got to him. 'Cause I knew they liked him.
I mean, I'm so no Ragland still. No, I'm still waiting. Like, how far is Reggie Ragland gonna fall? Is he gonna wind up going to Green Bay now?
Yeah,
That would be crazy.
He had an enlarged heart. I think that scared the teams a little bit. So.
I think his biggest problem is that he's not real athletic. I think he's a big hitter, but I think teams are worried that he won't be able to cover running backs and defense and tight ends. So in the passing game, and I think that's really devaluating him quite a lot. This Baylor cornerback is apparently considerably bigger than Alexander is. Alexander is only 5'11", so that may be decided to go with him.
Yeah.
But
and what's interesting about Ragland?
The other week. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say what's interesting about Ragland, and you guys were just talking about it, is he's kind of that old school linebacker, stuffs the gaps, gets the run in the middle, and the enlarged heart might have dropped his stock definitely, but you have to wonder if, teams aren't looking for that style of play. Like I know with the Jets getting Darren Lee, a lot of teams like those quick linebackers. They like them to be able to cover tight end. And you have to wonder, okay, the injury definitely weighed him down and worsened his stock. But, I mean, is there really that much of a spot in the NFL for those run-stopping middle linebackers anymore? I feel like the game's starting to transition. You like these hybrid guys, like the Deion Buchanans of the world.
No, I was looking at his snap count. So, I mean, that's why I was making the point of the player's not on the field. He's not helping your team. And if you have a 2-down linebacker, he's only going to play when there's obvious run situations. And, you get a team that, if you're beating a team, you get up on them. Ragland's off the field when they have to pass. You get a team in 3rd long, Ragland's off the field when they have to pass. And, suddenly he's only on the field for 50% of the plays or something like that. And then how do you justify using a high pick on a guy like that?
So Xavier Howard is 6 feet, and that's not terribly impressive. I mean, it's good.
You're right.
Well, that's tall. That's
Yeah.
tall for a corner. That's everybody's been saying, and that's obviously the way they've decided to go. That Miami's looking for bigger, press-capable corners, and that's what Xavier Howard absolutely is. He's a guy that's going to line up in a lot of press coverage, man to man. That's what he's good at. So I was a little surprised they moved up to get him, but they must have had a suspicion that one of those teams were looking at him, because I thought he would be a pick that Miami would consider at their spot in the second. So they obviously had him ahead of Alexander.
So I guess we were all just wrong about Ragland being a 1st-round pick.
Baylor's website says that Xavier Howard is 6'2", which is significant. That's pretty tall for a cornerback.
Yeah, well, the draft combine official says 6 feet.
So if that's really what he measures, then he's the kind of guy that's going to match up a lot better with a Brandon Marshall, and that has to be what they have in mind, because Marshall just pushed Brent Grimes around like he was a rag doll last year.
Yeah, they wanted to increase the size of their corners. That was a huge change in philosophy. They had Kevin Coyle in there originally last year. He always liked the small, fast corners that could play a lot of zone. They definitely been switched to bigger, press corners.
Yeah, there's always a bit to be said about, taking a guy who can stop what your rival's doing. So, you look at last night with the Giants and the Redskins. The Giants go out, they get a cornerback, Eli Apple. The Redskins later get Josh Stockton. So I'm not saying that's why Washington got, a big wide receiver, but, play against your rival's strength. So it'll be a fun matchup, Howard versus Marshall. You're right. He's a much bigger and stronger wide receiver, or cornerback than Brent Grimes.
His tape is conflicting, though.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I personally believe, obviously, you can look at what the Jets had and Dolphins have, but the reality is you got to beat the Patriots in the division, and I think that's the only way you can play the Patriots offense is to do a lot of press. I think if you play a lot of zone, Tom Brady just pick apart. And so, I understand that philosophy and that, you can't expect to cover Julian Edelman running a 5-yard slant or a 5-yard out over and over and over. The way you do that is you disrupt his route and his timing. And that's how you have to be able to stop that. So I think that it's been proven over and over throughout the last few years that you can't play a lot of zone coverage against the Patriots or they throw up 40 points on you.
Tampa didn't waste any time. Their pick is already in too, but we're waiting for a commercial break.
All right, hey, I'm going to have to go for a while, Lewis. I might call in a little bit later, so I have to jump off a little bit.
All right, Chad.
All right, we'll see you, Lewis. Bye.
See you guys later. Oh.
Yeah, not you, Tom.
So I'd say that pretty good night so far for the Dolphins. They obviously like this cornerback an awful lot, and they certainly do have the need. So so far so good for the team. I got to tell you, they got the best player in the draft in the middle of the first round yesterday. Now they're filling a big need with someone who appears to be a sizable cornerback. I like the direction they're headed. I think there might be a plan here. I give that front office a lot of trouble because, Tannenbaum's not a personnel guy, but you won't get any arguments from me so far.
Yeah, you can't argue with that first-round pick. You get arguably the best talent in the draft at 13. You'll take that any year.
I'm still trying to find some more info on this guy Xavier Howard. I mean, from what I've been able to read just now, it's like he has a lot of talent, but his tape is conflicting. And tape that says boom or bust scares me because we already have a bunch of those players on the roster as it is. We have Kiko Alonso, he could either boom or bust. We have Mario Williams, he could either boom or bust. We have Jamar Taylor, who turned out to be a very much bust and rather than a boom at corner. So another second round cornerback like that just kind of, I don't know, something about it just rubs me the wrong way. At this point, I really would have rather picked Mackenzie Alexander, if only because I've heard so much about his knowledge of the game, his ability to just figure things out. Maybe if nothing else, a student of the game would have been better than somebody who he looks good and then he looks awful.
Well, I mean, you got a point. I don't think it was a reach for him, though. As far as I can tell, he's a legitimate second-round pick. So, I guess my answer to that is there are no perfect prospects. And, I think there are a lot of people that will probably argue that Mackenzie Alexander was the better pick there. But I'm not inclined to argue it until I see the guy play. I mean, I guess that's the bottom line. Given the guy's measurables and given the fact that I don't think it was bad value for the spot, I'm inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt until I actually see the guy take the field, and then you'll hear a lot more from me when I actually see what he can do. He might turn out to be exactly what they need. But I can't say that I watch a lot of Baylor football, so I really can't say for sure.
Tampa Bay just. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Tampa Bay just picked Noah Spence.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, that's a good pick as long as he stays clean. I watched him in the Senior Bowl. I certainly did like what I saw. I thought honestly, I thought he was the best pass rusher on the field. So, and they moved him around quite a bit. He even looked good at D tackle. He definitely fits 4-3. He fits their defense for T, and he'll supply some pass rush. He would have fit the Dolphins actually as well, but I think one risky pick is enough in that area.
So I honestly would have preferred Noah Spence for Miami because at least then we'd have some kind of pass rushers going on here. Spence I feel like is a higher talent and he's more of a consensus first rounder caliber player than Howard would have been. But at this point, I mean, with guys like Artie Burns going in the first and Eli Apple going top 10, maybe we're all just really bad at evaluating talent this year. This feels like we've been more wrong this year than in any years I've ever been doing this.
Yeah,
It's been
I
very
don't know.
unpredictable.
I can remember an awful lot of years where I sat watching teams and trying to guess, who they're going to pick. And, guys would come up and you'd be like, man, I didn't see that one coming. I'll never forget when the Bears picked Kyle Long. I was pretty shocked. I mean, that was just not something that I thought I saw coming from anywhere near. And of course, he turned out to be a great. So, I'm willing to give it a shot here, as long as it's not a guy that somebody thought was a fourth rounder that they're taking.
Hey Tom.
Yeah, I know they traded back, didn't they?
Yeah, the Bears just keep going backwards.
Yeah, well, I think they'd like to accumulate picks just like everyone else. And probably at this point, they're thinking defensive linemen, and there are a ton left over from the first round. And I don't think they're real popular picks because they don't supply a lot of pass rush. They're big space eaters like you need in a base 3-4. So I'm sure they're thinking they can trade back to that spot in the second round, wherever New York was, and still pick up a good player. I'm positive that's the direction they're going to go. So I think they're doing the right thing, no doubt about it.
All right, so the Giants are up next, and I have no idea what they're going to be doing. Maybe another linebacker. Is this where Ragland goes finally?
Yeah, they certainly did reach for Eli Apple. They need a good pick here.
Rodney Hampton is doing the pick.
Sterling Shepard. That's a good
Sterling
pick.
Shepard.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a terrific pick.
Yeah. They. I think nobody on earth is going to be happier than Odell Beckham right now because
Yes,
he's going to
get
have
some
somebody
attention off of him.
I think that's a great pick. I've heard so much about him in the last couple of weeks. He's been really rising. I think he was arguably a first rounder. I think most people thought second round, but that's a good spot. That's a good spot for him, and they certainly did need him.
Yeah, it's a good spot. They didn't have to trade up. I mean, they just showed the side-by-side comparison of Shepard and Victor Cruz. But, with Cruz's health, and I know he's been saying he's more healthy, but it's always a big question mark. So to get a young guy you can try to build around, Beckham and Eli Manning, obviously, give him another weapon, and all of a sudden, I mean, that offense just keeps getting better. And we all know what they did in the offseason with their defense. So, if you're in one of these divisions, you look at the NFC East, it's wide open. I mean, the Cowboys have obviously made their moves, and if Romo and Des Bryant are healthy and throwing Ezekiel Elliott, they can be very good. But the rest of the division is a toss-up. So if the Giants think they can make a move, I say go for it. So I really like this pick. It's a very win-now pick.
Well, if you're
he's a good big receiver. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. If you're the Giants, I guess you kind of have to get your wins in quick because if Eli Manning, I'm sure maybe that's the idea. Maybe now that Peyton won a Super Bowl, Eli's all mad and is like, I gotta win one more. So maybe if you can look at it that way.
He's getting up there in age. They really should be thinking about a quarterback a lot more than some of these other teams. I think he's like 35 or 36, isn't he? So I think they're going to be looking. They're going to be one of the handful of teams that's going to be looking for those middle round quarterbacks. And arguably, they could have taken Connor Cook there, and I don't think anybody would have argued that pick too much.
So Buffalo's pick is in. I wonder who Rex is going with now.
Kind of tough to read there. They certainly got what they wanted in the first round in Shaq Lawson. Looks like they could use some offensive line help. Linebacker, but I don't see Ragland going there.
Oh, so there's your team, Tom. So they got the 49th, a fourth rounder, and then the 2017 fourth rounder.
Yeah, they got their fourth rounder back. They traded a fourth rounder to go up 2 spots to get ahead of the Giants in the first round, which, when you think about it, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, considering the fact that Miami gave up a fourth rounder in the second to move up 4 spots, that's pretty good. And then I think they wanted that pick back. I think they want more picks. They're rebuilding here, so the more shots you get at it, the better.
All right, so who's doing the picking for the Bills?
I don't recognize him.
Oh, Bruce Smith.
I should have known. He'd be the logical choice, wouldn't he?
Dan Marino's nemesis.
Oh, look at the way that light shines off.
There's Reggie Ragland. Crap.
There you go.
I didn't think that was a good fit, but apparently they did. So.
Rex thinks he can fit anybody into his defense. Like, Rex is so smart that he could get the water boy and he'd become a superstar.
Wow. Well, 2 picks for the Bills, 2 front 7 guys. I mean, it's pretty much like every Jets draft from 2009 to 2014 with Rex.
They're definitely defensive minded. I think that some improvement on that defense would be welcome. He's a defensive coach. They're supposed to do well defensively. So we'll see how smart he really is. I have my doubts about the pick here, but like you guys said, he must have a plan. We'll see.
Yeah. But, I mean, you can't argue with it. I mean, look, Ragland's a first-round talent. Slipped down, second round, whether that's because of the injury or the playing style. I mean, Bills liked him, traded up, got him, so give credit where credit is due. I mean, whether or not this pans out, I think the Bills handled the situation well. They got their guy at a good value. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I don't think most people would argue it. I think that he's a first-round talent. Everybody seemed to agree with that. So I'm not going to argue with it too much. And I love the guy, the way he hits. He's a big hitter. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But I've seen an awful lot of criticism of his athleticism, his ability to cover, and his instincts. That's not something you really want to hear. Hey, all power to him. They know more about it than I do. We'll see. We'll see how he works out. He wasn't my favorite player, so what? As long as he can play. They're not messing around tonight. The picks are coming in pretty quick. I like that.
I'm still wondering how far Mackenzie Alexander is going to fall.
That's right.
He didn't have any interceptions in college, and I wonder how much that's hurting him.
Well, interceptions are not the end-all, be-all for corners. Like, how well did they play when they threw at him? Would they get up his completions?
Not very well. I think that that was his forte. He was a good cover guy, no doubt about it. But arguably, and I use that word emphatically, arguably, when you're a professional cornerback in the NFL, you may need to do more than that. I mean, you may need to create some turnovers, especially if you're going to go high in the draft. If you're a first rounder, creating big plays is what it's all about. You have to be more than just a cover guy. You have to be an impact player. And arguably, and I want to say that again, I'm almost playing devil's advocate. Arguably, obviously some teams buy into that because he hasn't gone yet. But I got to believe he'll go soon because he's a great cover guy. And you're exactly right. Their completion percentage when they throw it inside of the field is like some ridiculously low value. I mean, I've seen it and I can't remember what it was, but it was really good.
So Baltimore's pick is already in too.
Yeah, I think that we're getting to the point where there may be a log jam in the back where the teams turn into the picks, but the NFL delays the announcement so that the broadcast can, talk about the previous pick and put up all the stats and show some highlights and, give your team a little bit of love, and then they'll go ahead and tell you what the pick was. I think that we may be getting to a point where that may start to happen.
So the Dolphins are doing their introductory the GM Chris Greer is in the conference room at the training facility right now. They said he was asked the possibility of maybe trading even higher into the second round, and they said that we were active today. So my guess is that maybe they were going to try and trade up for Miles Jack, but I guess it was going to be too steep of a price. So there's that. At least this draft is moving pretty quickly. I mean, once you get to like the later rounds, it becomes a little difficult to provide analysis because it's like fringe guys that maybe half of the time you've never even heard of. You can't watch everybody.
No, but this is a deep draft. I've been reading a lot of articles from scouts who, that's been the common theme of our discussion is how all the scouts know more than us, obviously, but they're all saying it's a very deep draft. So, I mean, look at us. We're in the middle of round 2, and we're still seeing the fringe first-round guys getting picked. So it's been an entertaining draft.
Chris Greer is calling Xavier Howard an alpha. Okay, well, lately I've heard that word, and it just bugs me because a lot of the times the people called alpha are very much, I guess the word would be obnoxious. And now we have Ron Kniff joining the show. Ron, it's great to have you, man.
What's up, guys? What's going on? Just taking a quick little break from work.
Okay,
to call in for a minute.
Okay, so the Ravens just picked linebacker Kamale Correa. I mean, oh, he's from Honolulu. Okay, well, I guess that makes sense.
I like him a lot. I actually did a scouting report on him for the Jets.
Oh, did you? Well, by all means, explain it, because I have no idea who this is.
Yeah, so I like him. He's very quick off the edge, and you guys are just thinking I'm reading off the bullet points they're putting up here, but I promise you, I'm not. This is my own work. He's quick off the edge. I liked him. One minor complaint, which is why I think he fell to the second round, was he struggled getting off blocks often when I watched some game film of him. But he's quick off the edge, and I think I like that. He can get to the quarterback. He's got to get bigger. He's kind of like a tweener, which a lot of these, college outside linebacker edge rushers are. I think it's a good pick. He can get to the quarterback. He's fast, so I like it.
So, Ron, now that you're here, man, what do you think about the Xavier Howard pick?
Yeah, it was just frustrating to watch that board, man. You saw Dodd go around, you just saw all these picks kind of going before and after Noah Spence and Miles Jack, and I thought they were going to move up for Alexander. I kind of thought that's what they were going to do, or maybe Reggie Ragland. I don't know. I'm not super excited about it. I got to be honest with you, and it may really work out. Maybe he'll be great, but I'm definitely not feeling excited like I was last night about the pick. I mean, of course, picks like that don't happen, but it was just kind of had my heart set on, 10, 12 guys coming out of the first round. I was hoping it was going to be one of those guys, and it just, I don't know. It's a need pick for sure, but I felt like I wonder what's going on with Alexander and why he's dropping. Obviously, we're not the only one not taking him. I'm okay with it. I'm just not excited about it.
Yeah. Austin Johnson for the Titans.
But do you guys know? It looked like we lost a 4th-round pick to do
Yeah,
that trade.
we gave up a 4th-rounder to get Xavier Howard. So I guess they liked him enough that they were willing to go up for him.
Yeah, and did they give up a 4th-rounder and like get back a 6th or a 7th, or did we literally
No,
just
we
give
just
up a 4th
we
rounder?
gave up a 4th-rounder.
And I don't feel like that was a great value on the trade either, to be honest with you. I feel like we should have been able to get back like a 6th or something, a 7th at least. I'm very surprised that we gave up a 4th just to move up what? What did we move up? 6 spots
We
in the
went-
2nd round?
Yep.
I don't like that at all.
Well, a lot of the people.
Straight honest.
Well, I just saw Barry Jackson. He put up something about what the what other draft analysts are saying about Xavier Howard. Lewis Riddick says he's he's one of his favorite players in the corner. He's one of his favorite players in the draft. A big physical corner. He likes press coverage, so press zone or press man is fine. Kuiper is a little sloppy, but he has upside. McShay, he says he's at his best with press, whether it's press zone or press man, and that's what Vance Joseph is. So, I mean, if nothing else, it sounds like he's going to fit the scheme, and if that's the case, then all right, I'll trust our new defensive coordinator. He's been highly touted for a long time, so hopefully he's going to have to see if he can prove it with this whole picking this guy I've never that I didn't think about.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see where we go from here. Let's see what happens in the 3rd round. I don't like that we lost a 4th-round pick and didn't get, at least a 6 or something back. Feel like I don't have a value chart in front of me, but I've stared at that thing so much over the past couple weeks. I kind of have a feel for it, and I'll bet if I went and looked at it and did the math on the Jimmy Johnson value chart anyway, I guarantee you we did not get full value for that trade. That we should have had a little bit more and not had to give up quite as much just to go up. What was it, from 11 to 7, right? I mean, we were talking 4 picks, if I'm not mistaken, that we moved up there.
I think it was like 4 picks.
But I mean, I'm glad we got another cornerback to add into the mix, and hopefully he'll be. But I mean, this kid's gonna have to start for week 1. I don't see any other option right now. He's starting week 1. I mean, he's just gonna have to. I don't know who else will.
Leon Hall. If they pick him up.
If we pick him up, but we don't even. I mean, we haven't. I just saying, if you look at the roster right now, he's got to start right now.
Well, Miami's not. Miami can be active in free agency now, considering that they're not in danger of losing any comp picks.
Yeah, after May 10th. So yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll just see how it works out. I mean, hey, if these players are good, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you told me we were gonna lose a certain round pick to go up and get Rashad Jones, and I'd be like, in hindsight, like, heck yeah, that was worth it. Give up 2. But it's just in the moment when you don't really know how these guys are going to play on the NFL level, and you kind of have your heart set on some names, and probably these names are overinflated by the quote unquote all the analysts and us, amateur analysts out there. So we're gonna just have to see how it works out. I don't really love the trade itself as far as that goes, though. I didn't think that was great, but hopefully the player will be good.
Okay, so the Raiders picked up defensive end Jihad Ward out of Illinois. Max?
No, just because I know about Correa doesn't mean I know much about Ward.
Well, I gotta ask,
Yeah, I know. I've been over here with the scouting reports, but I'm not so sure about Ward. I focused a lot on some linebackers and offensive linemen this year with the Jets, so I'm not too familiar with Ward. But I mean, you have to figure with the Raiders. I mean, their front 7 is very good already. So to add another 2nd round talent, you already have Khalil Mack, you already have Tuck, so it could be pretty good.
And now that Reggie Ragland is not a Dolphin, can I now go in there and say, oh, he's garbage? He's a two down player.
No, you can't do that.
He's a 2 down player.
I wanted Ragland too.
Dude, Bills have Ragland and Shaq Lawson.
That's just Rex being Rex.
Yeah, but when you look at that on paper before the game started, that just feels kind of nasty, right? Like, I don't like that as a Dolphins fan at all. I really hope that does not work out and those guys suck, honestly.
Well, Rex runs a 3-4, right?
He runs, runs like a hybrid kind of thing. He kind of goes back and forth. He does some very unusual exotic kind of formations on defense, some very complicated stuff.
especially
As
on
in,
third down.
yeah, and i.e. the stuff that Mario Williams hated.
So there's always that. I mean, Regland was supposedly the one true middle linebacker in this whole draft that we could actually look at. So if Rex is trying to squeeze him into his defense, suddenly Ragland doesn't look like that terrific of a pick. The thing with Rex is that his ego is so big that he thinks that he can just fit in anybody and it'll just work out because he's Rex Ryan.
Well, hopefully he'll be wrong. Especially with his two down guy Raglan that he has. I'm
Stop
gonna
it,
keep
Ron.
saying it. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna say this. All these analysts that said that to all the Dolphins fans, don't sit there and turn around now and tell us that you thought it was a good pick because the Bills did it. I hate that crap. It's like that's what I don't want to hear. So everybody that kept saying he's a two down guy better keep saying it. That's all I know. I
I'll,
personally, if they had moved up and they had chosen Raglan, I'd have been very happy right now.
I'll tell you what about Ragland, and I forget what game I was watching, but I was watching a game for some film on like an offensive lineman or something, and they were playing Alabama. And I tried to focus on the offensive lineman, but every single play, it seemed like number 19 was in there making a tackle. And, I'm not a scout or anything, but there's something to be said about a guy whose name is always called. I mean, unless you're a cornerback where, they say the less they say your name, the better, which is why you rarely hear a guy like Revis or Norman. You don't hear their name called too much. But, for a linebacker, you hear his name all the time. I don't know. I like that a lot about Ragland. But, I mean, we'll see how he fits in with Rex's defense. We know Rex had David Harris with the Jets, a similar run-stopping linebacker that worked out well for him. Maybe he's trying to replicate what he did in New York. Of course, that only got him a couple of AFC championship losses. So, not really sure where he's going with that. And I don't know if the defense is that talented, especially at corner.
All right, guys. I got to head out for a little while. I don't know how long are you guys be doing this? The whole draft?
Unless we just kind of run out of stuff to talk about, which I don't. We'll see.
All right.
Miami still has a third round pick to do.
Yeah, okay. I'll try and call back in a little while.
All right. See you,
okay.
Ron.
All right, bye.
Yeah, I hate to ditch you too, but the Jets are a couple picks away, so I'm going to go and get set up for that.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks for having me, of course. All right. Talk to you guys soon.
Talk to you soon, Max.
All right. Bye-bye.
So for the moment, I'm alone. So right now, anybody who wants to call in, remember the number to call would be 1-954-376-5704. So if you want to call in, give your opinion, you can go ahead and give me a call, and I'll listen to whatever it is you have to say. You have some thoughts about the Xavier Howard pick, or maybe you want to get something off your chest about Laramie Tunsil. Maybe you have some kind of idea of who you want the Dolphins to pick in the third round. So I'll be here, and I'll be waiting. I'm going to be seeing if I can I'm actually looking to see if I can get a very special guest to come on with us in a little bit. So we'll see how it goes with that. As for the Xavier Howard pick, I'm doing some more research on exactly what I can skim off of him. Chris Greer calling him an alpha male kind of a guy. That kind of, I still don't know what to think about that, considering Howard is. If people who I lately the alpha males that I have heard about, they range in the names of Mike Wallace. Let me see who else is considered an alpha male. You see guys like Mike Pouncey. You see guys like I don't know, Cam Newton. Maybe I guess he would be considered an alpha male as well. But a lot of these so-called alpha males that we've been looking at who have used to be on the Dolphins, a lot of these guys have been guys who they cause tension, I guess would be the right word. Mike Wallace was considered an alpha male, and every 5 minutes you were wondering, oh, what's Mike Wallace going to do next? Because he doesn't like Ryan Tannehill. It seems to me that alpha males are people who don't like Ryan Tannehill. That's been the recent description of how it goes. So hopefully he's an alpha male in the sense that he's a leader, but he's not going to come and see if he can chew out his quarterback at the first chance he gets. The Titans seem to be getting a lot of picks in, so Lucky Tennessee, since they're still looking for some pieces to put around their young quarterback Marcus Mariota. They have some pieces working for them. On offense, you have Delaney Walker at tight end, Dorial Green Beckham at wide receiver. You have Mariota, of course, at the quarterback spot. They needed some offensive line help, so I don't know if they're gonna keep going with that mindset. Oh, and okay, so that's interesting. I don't know if I'm gonna go ahead and just spoil this. So since I'm all by myself, Derrick Henry is the pick for the Tennessee Titans. So looks like Marcus Mariota gets to have themselves a running back. Derrick Henry was considered the second best, right behind Ezekiel Elliott. He's a big, strong bruiser. He's the kind of, if I had to put a name to a description, I would probably put LeGarrette Blunt up there because he's this guy he's gonna run you over. He's not gonna outrun you, but he will run you over. So Tennessee gets themselves a power bruising running back, and Marcus Mariota gets himself a lot of help because with Derrick Henry in there now, hopefully for them they'll be able to grab a guy who will help them out a lot. Of course, I was iffy a lot about guys like Derrick Henry because you always think of whenever you think of the Alabama Crimson Tide, you are always thinking about, well, they have this amazing offensive line in front of them, so of course these running backs are going to look good. I think Trent Richardson was a an extreme uh, benefactor of the offensive line up there in Alabama. So, and then we all know what happened to Trent Richardson. It didn't exactly work out. I don't know if Derrick Henry fits that mold, but of course I'm going to be somewhat iffy about the whole idea of what Derrick Henry will do. So I'm trying to think now. I'll go ahead and say the number again. If you want to call in, it's 1-954-376-5704. I'm always looking. We're willing to take on any callers. So anything you want to say, you can go ahead and say so. Detroit's up next. Detroit's going to need some help on defense still. They lost. They're still reeling, I would think, from the loss of Ndamukong Suh. The defensive line's going to be in a bit of a shambles. The fact that they lost Calvin Johnson is going to be somewhat of a bruise on their offense for a while. And there's always a question about what Matthew Stafford is going to do. Obviously, the quarterbacks are always in play here for these guys because you look at these guys and you think, well, they're not doing anything super special. They're not doing anything spectacular. Matt Stafford is almost up there in Ryan Tannehill levels of skepticism at this point. The fact that they haven't won, despite with Stafford, they start to think, well, it must be Stafford's fault. I've always been a proponent of team football, so I don't pin it on one guy ever if I can help it. But every once in a while, for certain specific plays, then yes, you can blame people. But I don't blame whole games on what one player does. So Matt Stafford, he's good. He's just not spectacular. So if you wanted to go with somebody like a Connor Cook or a Christian Hackenberg, if you wanted to develop them, that'd be fine. But I think you can get those guys later on in the draft as well. All right, so Herman Moore, four-time Pro Bowler, is going to be picking for the Detroit Lions, and their pick is Ashawn Robinson, defensive tackle, also out of Alabama. He was considered one of the top guys still available in the draft. He was so now that he's got that going for him, I guess Detroit's gonna fill in their hole of Ndamukong Suh with this guy Ashawn Robinson. That leaves Andrew Billings still on the board, and Andrew Billings was somebody that a lot of my guys really liked. Cody Whitehair is a guard. He's available as well. I'm going to take a quick break here, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned, and we'll be back very shortly. And we're back. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a caller, and I have a pretty good idea. I know who this caller is. Caller, reveal yourself.
This is Greg Likens calling. Is this Lewis?
Yes, it is. Greg, it's nice to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Lewis. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, man?
I'm doing well. You know, there's so much build up and hype to the draft. It's good that it's finally here. Night one, obviously, a ton of entertaining storylines, and night two off to a good start already so far as well.
Yeah, so actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. First, I'm going to need to make the report that the pick is in for Detroit. I don't know who it is yet, but let's gonna see how that goes. So since you're here, Greg, I wanted to ask you, what did you think about the first round pick from Miami? How did you think what was your thought process when all that went down?
Yeah, what a bizarre night. I mean, finding out about the Laramie Tunsil video that was posted with him, smoking marijuana and realizing it was him, and the way the timeline transpired, it was surreal to watch a guy that just a few weeks ago some people had as the number one pick in the draft fall, and it was every year there seems to be a guy that falls further than everyone anticipates, and in this case, it's Laramie Tunsil, and to watch pick by pick go off the board, and especially you knew something was up when Jack Conklin went at number 8 when the Titans moved up to get him. So 2 offensive tackles picked before Tunsil, who was, by all accounts, the top offensive tackle prospect of the draft. So once that continues going, and once Eli Apple went off the board at 10, then it's suddenly, all right, what are the Dolphins going to do? Hargraves goes next, and 2 of the top cornerback prospects aren't there. Miles Jack is still available, and ultimately Chris Greer, Mike Tannenbaum decide to literally go with their best player available. It is Tunsil, and I'm excited about it because I think it's a great value. When you talk about Greer describing him as the number 2 prospect in the entire draft on their board, and you get him at 13, I know that he's a tackle, so they're going to have to be creative in terms of what they do on the offensive line and fitting him in. It sounds like he'll go in as the left guard, at least to start. But I don't think you can argue with the type of talent they were able to get in terms of the value there at 13.
And I would totally agree with that. I mean, the fact that they got somebody like Laramie Tunsil, a lot of people considered him the best player in the draft overall, not even like at his position, just like the best, period. So Miami lucked out with the whole situation. It's sad that it had to come at the expense of embarrassing this poor kid. I mean, if this video really is just like 2 years old, I think it's something that he would have wanted buried in his past. So it's kind of sad that it had to come up like this. But I mean, Miami got themselves somebody who they can look at in going into the future, probably their franchise left tackle when Brandon Albert finally moves on, whenever that may be. You have a guy who can shift over to left guard. It shouldn't be that difficult of a transition for him. He'll be able to learn between Mike Pouncey and Brandon Albert the speed of the NFL. So that's really going to help things out. And of course, it's going to help out Ryan Tannehill a lot because finally we have somebody with all due respect to some of the Dolphins personnel. I mean, finally we have somebody in there not named Dallas Thomas to actually keep Tannehill upright.
Yeah, and listen, going into last night and really the entire draft this weekend, there are a lot of holes in this Dolphins roster. So while I firmly believe cornerback was the biggest need, you can't argue if they get a guy with his talent level at another position of need. And again, it's not his traditional position. He projects long-term as a tackle, but I agree. If they can transition him into the National Football League at guard, and they have now 4 former first-round picks on the offensive line when you include Albert, Pouncey, and James. And then there's going to be a competition between, you mentioned Dallas Thomas, Billy Turner, Jamil Douglas, Jermon Bushrod, Craig Urbick, and I like that. I like the fact that you got 4 or 5 guys competing for one spot. Clearly, they'll find the best guy there, and at that point, hey, listen, you can make the argument they may have one weak link on the offensive line, but it's so much better than they've been the last couple of years. And really, when you expand it to 4 years with Ryan Tannehill, 184 sacks allowed, I hope that we'll be looking at 2016 with those type of sack numbers being a thing of the past. And so now as we look at Laramie Tunsil, certainly I think it's valid to have some character questions. He's going to have to disprove those things, and you kind of have to trust the Dolphins front office that they are willing to move on with him, because this is literally a multi-million-dollar process in terms of them evaluating all these prospects. And if they didn't believe that he can turn things around, they wouldn't have taken him at number 13.
Oh, I don't doubt that they did their homework on him, and I'm sure that this kid has realized. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to make sure I'm super careful. I mean, the fact that the press conference today showed that he's trying his very best to not give any information. I think he's trying to actually pull a Marshawn Lynch from what it sounded like. I could almost hear him saying, "I'm just here so I don't get fined," if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, yeah, and to that point, if there was ever a situation that would humble you and give you a reality check, I think, again, it's difficult. I felt bad for him last night once we found out more of the information, but to be firmly embarrassed on national television with all eyes watching the way he was, if this isn't a wake-up call for him, I don't know what else is going to be. So I feel good about him in terms of what his focus will be, but obviously a bit of a risk character-wise considering all of this. But again, it's not like the Dolphins just found out about this, at least according to them. So they were aware of some of the issues in his past and feel good about him moving forward.
Yeah, so now let me ask you about our second round pick, Xavier Howard. I mean, the Dolphins still had quite a few players to pick from. They had guys like Reggie Ragland, he was still there. Mackenzie Alexander was still there. Andrew Billings, who was on the defensive tackle, and Miami's going to need some more of those soon. He was still there. But they went with this guy, Howard, and I suppose he fits the mold, but he's not. He has, according to what I've read, and this guy's tape has been very much boom or bust. And I would imagine that Miami already has enough of those kinds of players on the roster already.
Well, yeah, you could argue that, and I agree with everything I've heard about Xavier Howard is that he's got potential, but that when you watch the tape, that he was really good at some points and then not so great at other points. The way Chris Greer described him is that he is ultra competitive and an ultimate alpha male. That's really what you look for in a cornerback. And I think that when they make the move up 4 spots, give him a 4th-round pick to go from 42 to 38, it's pretty clear that they like what he brings to the table. But I think we can all acknowledge that not only is this going to be on the front office to make this choice, but it's also on the coaching staff to develop this guy properly. And I think you hit it on the head. Bigger cornerback, Mackenzie Alexander's 5'10". This guy's a little over 6 foot. For whatever reason, that's what Vance Joseph likes in his system that he's installing on defense. You got Byron Maxwell on one side who's a bigger corner. Now Xavier Howard. They desperately needed to address the position. And I know that you mentioned a couple of other guys who were on the board. I didn't think the Dolphins could wait any longer to address cornerback. You could make the valid argument for Laramie Tunsil because of what his value is there at 13. But that next pick, they needed to get a cornerback. They got the guy in Xavier Howard. And, hey, man, all eyes will be on him. He'll be expected as a second-round pick to be the starter come week 1 of 2016.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand the potential part of it. I mean, Vance Joseph would not have gone up and gotten him if he didn't feel that he was worth it. He's obviously somebody that he can be worked with. I believe it was Todd McShay who said that what Howard does best is in press man, press zone, whatever kind of press that you want to put, and that's kind of the defense that Vance Joseph is going to wind up putting. So if nothing else, he fits the scheme. It's just that I actually, but to be perfectly honest, I'm a little uncomfortable with what Greer described him as. Not the ultra competitive part. I love that. The ultimate alpha male. Like I have heard this term thrown around, and I've seen a lot of the alpha males. I've seen traits in these so-called alpha males that I did not exactly appreciate. So I actually just want to ask you this. In your mind, what exactly is an alpha male? Can you describe that at all?
Well, yeah, I think it's just somebody who, in this case, has the ultimate level of confidence in his ability, and nothing is going to shake that. And if there was ever a position in which you would need that as a characteristic, it's when you're out on an island as a cornerback, because you're going to give up plays. The question is, psychologically, how are you going to bounce back? So, at that position specifically, I would say that there's probably two positions on the field where it's good to have that trait, and it's at a cornerback spot and at quarterback as well, because so much is put on your shoulders and you have so much responsibility that you can't be affected by anything that transpires as far as adversity on or off the field. So it doesn't bother me at that position. The thing that will be that I don't like about, say, the quote unquote alpha male, I think what you're describing is that I think the perception is that could be a disruptive force in the locker room. But as long as they have the right leadership, you have a lot of veterans on that defense, I think they'll be fine. Again, I say this not knowing Xavier Howard whatsoever, so time will tell. But yeah, at that position, it doesn't bother me too much. And the fact of the matter is, if it came down to Mackenzie Alexander versus Xavier Howard, and they like Howard's skill set better, we have to trust that that's what Vance Joseph likes. But with all of these picks, it's kind of wait and see. And again, when I look at Tony Lippett, Bobby McCain, Jamar Taylor as your only other options, and Tyler Patman, your only other options at cornerback right now, they desperately needed a guy there. The question will be, long-term, is Xavier Howard the one that was the right pick? And we'll find out when they start playing football coming up later this year.
This draft, Greg, has been probably one of the most unpredictable drafts we've had in a very long time. I mean, either we're all really bad at evaluating talent, or I guess there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we just don't know about. You see Alexander, Ragland dropping out of the first. You see Jalen Smith getting picked in the second when most people didn't think he'd go until the fifth. I mean, are we just really bad at this, or is there just a lot of stuff going on we don't know about?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's one thing from afar to be reading all of the analysis and hearing from the quote-unquote draft experts, and another thing to be doing it for a living. And so I don't think it speaks poorly of us trying to know as much as we can. I think it's just more of the fact that when it comes down to making decisions that can make or break whether you are employed in the next year or two, there's a lot more information and money and research that's put in all these things. But you're right, it's been intriguing and really entertaining up to this point. I mean, obviously, I think Laramie Tunsil stole the show last night for partially the wrong reasons and the right reason, because he ultimately went 13 to the Miami Dolphins. But then really the domino effect started when I think Joey Bosa went at number 3, because
That was odd too.
Yeah, a bunch of other players projected there. So once he was picked by the Chargers, you kind of had a feeling that would have a domino effect on a bunch of the other high-level picks. And I agree with you on Jalen Smith and Miles Jack. I mean, Smith we anticipated would drop lower in the draft just because his injury is so recent. But for Miles Jack, we had heard all the projections that he could go as high as number 5. The Jaguars, he ultimately gets picked by the Jaguars, but not until the second round. So I think that was a big shock as well.
Yeah, Jack falling to the second was something I didn't expect, even with his knee injury. We have Duke calling in the show now. Duke, thanks for joining us, man.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, so now there was something else that I wanted to bring up, and actually, it was the mixed results that I got from the Dolphins draft party last night. Greg, I don't know if you were privy to what happened, but last night I took some video, and when I saw what happened with the reaction with the announcement, I saw a lot of mixed results. There were a lot of people that were happy. There were a lot of people that were not so happy. And then as I surveyed people as they walked out, I asked them, what do you think of the pick? There were people who said, yeah, they liked it. We needed it. They said saying, no, I don't like it. We needed somebody else. And then there were those people, there were quite a few people who said the Dolphins done effed it up again. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I also think this was, as compared to other selections in years past, this was more difficult to fully react to and to digest because, I mean, regardless of what you think morally about a guy smoking marijuana, the image was pretty jarring. We're seeing him with that gas mask on, and so I think that's fresh in everybody's mind. So the first question is, will this guy have a drug problem, right? The Dolphins may have just taken a guy that has perhaps, and again, just speculation, but perhaps the same type of character traits as a Deion Jordan. We're not too far removed from that whole mess. So I think that's the first thing that pops in your mind. The second thing is he's a tackle, so where's he going to play on the offensive line when you have Juwan James and Brandon Albert? So immediately in the aftermath of the pick, I think that's running through your head. And then finally, yeah, you can admit, wow, this guy's a great talent. But when you have questions about those other two things, I can understand people at first not really being sure how to react to a selection like that, especially, again, when social media puts an image like that out there and the way everything transpired, because we didn't know until after the pick was made and after he finally addressed the media that, what was going on, that his account was hacked. When let's talk about this, Lewis, because if you hear an athlete or a high-profile person say that their account was hacked after they put something that's embarrassing out there, the first thing is for us all to be very skeptical of it, right? And say, okay, yeah, that's what everybody says. In this case, though, it's like, well, first of all, how did this happen 13 minutes before the draft started? And second of all, the more you thought about it, it's like, there's no way this guy would have done this. He must have gotten his account hacked. And how often does that actually happen? So it was bizarre.
Yeah, it never really happens for real, and that was the other thing that happened actually earlier today when the Dolphins had their introductory press conference for Tunsil. Or at least they tried to, but he had what was called an allergic reaction, and of course everybody was like, "Yeah, right."
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, it added just another very strange wrinkle to the situation. I'm happy that about an hour and a half later he did address the media, so that because listen. As cynical as we can be, the Dolphins wouldn't make something like that up. I mean, they could have just pushed the press conference back.
Yeah,
right?
you
There's
can't
no
make
reason
that
for
stuff
them.
up. You can't make that stuff up.
No, but within the context of everything that happened, over 24 hours, it was like you just had to sit there and partially laugh and shake your head, like, what other wrinkles or strange occurrences can occur right now with this Laramie Tunsil kid, because just about the gauntlet was thrown at him in terms of bizarre, off-the-wall, unforeseen instances in a 24-hour period for him with the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I have no words. I don't know if it was just them trying to protect Tunsil and trying to give him some coaching before he went up there. But I mean, what kind of I can't imagine they made that story up. I mean, what if you wanted to make up a story? You can say that, oh, he went somewhere and we're trying to find him or something along those lines. But I guess even that wouldn't have been pretty good either. But he had an allergic reaction. You can't make that stuff up. That's stuff that you find in like fantasy stories or something like that. Oh, he had an allergic reaction. He couldn't be there.
Right. Yeah. And again, they could have just they didn't announce the press conference until about 1:30 or 2 o'clock this afternoon. So it was a real quick turnaround. So 3:30 when it was scheduled. So they very easily could have just pushed it back a little further. So again, I think this is my take on it is that this is just a real bad run of luck for the kids. And fortunately, whatever this allergic reaction was, it wasn't too bad. He did address the media, and I think wisely kept it on football and the Dolphins, and didn't speak his mind on any other topic because he did enough of that last night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. The whole thing is bizarre. He must have crossed like 8 black cats before he got drafted or something, because like I have never seen this much bad stuff, unprecedented bad stuff happen to one guy in the span of 24 hours, more than I've seen for this kid Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument that this will go down as arguably, depending on, I think for us, especially following the Dolphins, this is going to be the most memorable draft storyline, just because you had the visual of him with the gas mask on, and you had, this fall from potentially being the number one pick down to 13. So this is going to go down as one of the most, if not the most memorable draft storyline that we've seen in the history of the National Football League. And the bottom line here is if he goes out on the field and performs, if he doesn't have any issues away from football in terms of his drug tests and all this, we may look back on this years from now and just laugh at the absurdity of it all and say, hey, the Dolphins got a steal there with Laramie Tunsil, who it projects to be their left tackle for the next 10 years.
Indeed. Duke, you have any thoughts on this? Hello. No, I guess Duke doesn't have any
Sorry,
thoughts.
sorry.
I was saying, no, I guess
Can
he
you hear me?
doesn't have any. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Um, I mean, I don't know about all that extra stuff. So yeah, and really, and I've said this before. I mean, as long as you're not committing crimes that's going to put you in jail, I really don't care what players do on their own time. I mean, I don't. That's their own personal business. And really, as long as it doesn't affect them being out on the field, then I don't. You know what they want to do with their life's their business. So if that's something, I saw some tweets last night. I think it was Omar that said, he doesn't care about him actually smoking marijuana as long as he doesn't fail drug tests. And I'm kind of the same way. If he does that, just don't get caught. Don't cost the Dolphins games. Don't do like how Deion Jordan ended up, where he doesn't see the field. If that's what he wants to do on South Beach, and he's a great left tackle, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, the left tackle spot is. I think it's good to go for the next 10 years if Tunsil turns out to be what he's expected to be. And as for Xavier Howard, I mean, there's still some question marks about him. Um, considering what's going on, so considering what the team has already picked, and I'm going to ask you, Greg, what do you think Miami should be looking at round 3?
Yeah, round 3 is going to be really interesting now that they've addressed the cornerback spot. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. I don't think it's realistic, but I wouldn't be opposed for them if another cornerback is available that they like, doubling up on that position, just because, again, when you've got Howard, Maxwell as your now projected starters, and then it's Tony Lippett, Bobby McCain, Jamar Taylor after that, you could use all the help you can get at that position, and the competition isn't a bad thing. Otherwise, they're now set up to get one of the next tier of running backs because they do need a complement to Jay Ajayi in the backfield. So I would not be opposed to that. If there's a pass rusher or a linebacker that they are in favor of, I think any of those positions are on the board. Again, as we stated kind of off the top, they have so many holes in this roster, so many positions that they could use more depth that really when Chris Greer says best player available, I think the third-round pick falls into that category. But again, to me, my first inclination would be maybe you get that running back in the third round that's got good value that can provide a nice 1-2 punch with Jay Ajayi.
Yeah, and I'm thinking also that I'm actually, now that you bring it up, I wouldn't mind doubling down at corner. And if things keep going the way they are, I really think I wouldn't mind picking up Mackenzie Alexander if it meant that. I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest about this. I understand the whole idea of Mackenzie Alexander is not a scheme fit. Yes, I understand that. But also things that people have said about him is that he is a technician. He knows how the game works. He's a student of the game. He studies all this stuff all the time. He could learn how to function in a zone scheme, I think. It's not like this kid he's purely man and he'll never be any good in any other scheme. And the fact that he's fallen so far, he's gone from a first round candidate, somebody who was considered better than Vernon Hargreaves in some way, to somebody who it feels like he may not ever get drafted at this point. So if I'm looking at it and if third round he's still there, I'm jumping on Mackenzie Alexander because he could at least learn how to do it, and we still need more corners. It's not like we picked up Howard and we're good to go.
Yeah, I agree with his talent. I doubt he'll still be there, but if he is, then I don't think there's any question because let's make one thing clear that yes, there is a prototype for the Vance Joseph defense, and he likes the bigger, more physical corners. But Brent Grimes, for example, doesn't fall under that category in terms of his stature. We all know that. But if he didn't have, some of the off-the-field distractions, if he didn't have the financial situation there, like Brent Grimes could thrive in any system. I'm convinced of that. If you have a talented player, you'll find a way for him to fit into your system. So I would agree with you that if Alexander is as talented as has been projected and he's still available, you already have Howard who fits the mold of what you want. Then you can get another guy that can compete and heck, if you got Howard and Alexander competing for that starting spot, and Alexander plays better, he might not be the quote-unquote prototypical scheme fit, but you put the best players out on the field. So I think the Dolphins, that'd be a dream scenario for them, although now they're about 22 picks away, so the likelihood of him still being around, probably not very high.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I'm gonna also ask this: what, how has we gotten to the point where scheme fit is so important that guys this talented just fall in right out of their like first, second? If Mackenzie Alexander really keeps falling like this, have we really gotten to the point where scheme fit is just so important that you don't care how talented a guy is, you want that scheme fit?
No, I think there's a balance there because let's be honest. If Mackenzie Alexander was far and away a better player than Xavier Howard, I think he would have been picked by now, whether it be the Dolphins or otherwise. So there must, because this is not just the Dolphins. I mean, we're 50 picks into the draft and he hasn't been taken. So because everybody runs different schemes. So if all the teams were high on Mackenzie Alexander, I think he'd be off the board right now. But at this point, other teams have different priorities. Dolphins like Howard over Alexander, and we're sitting here 50 picks into the draft. Mackenzie Alexander is still here. Listen, again, I'd love to see him land with the Dolphins if that's a possibility in the third round, because we know based on his commentary at the Combine, he's a confident guy as well, and I think he'd be pretty entertaining to have on a Dolphins uniform. So we'll see what happens. But again, if this guy was ultimate talent, because Vernon Hargreaves, he doesn't fit that mold either, but he's so good that you can fit him in pretty much any scheme you want. So I think that there's certainly talent trumps any scheme fits if you're an NFL team.
So I guess that means that we're just dead. Most of us were just dead wrong about Mackenzie Alexander then. Whew.
Well, either that or he's going to prove all these teams wrong in the next few years, right?
Yeah, there is that. Like, how many guys have come out and said, "Oh, you think I'm worth this? Huh? Watch this."
Exactly. Well, yeah, we see it every year with heck. I mean, Richard Sherman was a 5th-round pick. Rashad Jones was a 5th-round pick. Rashard Matthews was a 7th-round pick. So it's a very inexact science, and certainly your draft position doesn't dictate how good you're going to be. So that's I think one of the many intriguing parts of this NFL draft process is that seemingly you can find value at any point in the draft. Obviously, the percentages are higher, first and second round, but just never know when you're going to uncover a gem throughout the 7th round.
Oh, there's something. Go ahead, Duke.
One thing that I read earlier this season that you read about the stuff and study the draft long enough, you just pick up tidbits of things. And one thing that I read, I can't remember where I read it from, but it said that Seattle will not take a cornerback with arm length less than, I think it's 32 inches. Oh, Christian Hackenberg just went to the Jets.
Yep, there they go. They got their quarterback, Christian Hackenberg.
So, but they said that the Seahawks will not take a corner whose arms are shorter than 32 inches. And they said they will take lower-rated prospects that fit their mold but aren't necessarily higher rated on what everybody else thinks, and they believe they can coach them up. So it may be a situation here with Howard versus a guy like Alexander where they said Howard fits the mold that we want and we can coach him up to the player we think he can be, kind of like how Seattle does. Now, Seattle's got the benefit of the doubt. They did that with Richard Sherman. They've got guys on their roster, Byron Maxwell for the Dolphins, guys that fit that mold who have succeeded under their scheme. So they've proven they can do it. Vance Joseph has not. So we've got to, if he can do that, if he can show that he can, get guys like, say, Tony Lippett, who is very raw at that position, and can get him to become a quality NFL starter, then, I don't have a problem sticking to a mold like Seattle does.
Well, if it's gotten to that point, I mean, uh, I'm still saying
Well, I mean, I don't want to say scheme fit because I mean, you heard that with with Kevin Coyle as well, and people will say, well, you know, and Brent Grimes, I remember hearing him say, well, we play zone, but that just means we're basically playing man coverage anyway, even in zone, and so I don't want to say Howard fits a scheme. I want to say he fits their mold for what they want at a cornerback. And I think that's what's critical. Now, you take a guy like Hargreaves, who you watch his tape, you put on his tape and watch him, you can see that he can play press, he can play man coverage, he can play zone, he can do all the stuff. And even though the height may not be there, he's got the talent to excel despite that. I think that's a different situation. When you get into these other guys, then you start saying, all right, we're looking for the mold we want, not necessarily the scheme fit. And I think that's what you'll see on Twitter. You'll see people talk about, well, this guy fits Joe's scheme. And I'm like, well, that's not to say Mackenzie Alexander couldn't fit the scheme. I think they're just looking at a type of player. They want a guy who's 6 foot or higher. They want certain arm length. They want certain physical traits that Alexander does not necessarily fit. And I think that's what they're looking for more than actual scheme.
So you're looking at mold instead, not necessarily scheme fit. Okay.
Yeah, I think that when Bill Parcells was with the Dolphins, they had you wouldn't take a linebacker if he didn't fit a certain physical set. And he had the Bill Parcells rules for drafting a quarterback. He had to be a 3-year starter, he had to be a certain height, all the stuff. And at some point, talent has to overrule that. You don't let a guy slip in the draft or go by you who's extremely talented because he doesn't fit a certain mold. But at this point, I would assume that Adam Gase has said that they've worked together regarding the draft. So I'm assuming he knows, he's giving them input. This is what we're looking for. And even though it's the second round and you're still looking for impact guys, you're looking at these guys that are out there and they're saying, all right, who fits what we want to do? At this point, it's not about talent. It's about, because they're probably viewing everybody as equivalent talents that, you have like a horizontal draft board. You say, all right, these corners are here and they're all rated, certain spots. And they probably said, all right, how do we differentiate between these guys? And I could imagine a conversation where they're putting together their draft board where they say, all right, we kind of have Mackenzie Alexander and Xavier Howard rated similarly. We like Howard better because of he fits the physical mold we like more than Mackenzie Alexander. So it's very possible that those guys had a similar grade, similar rating, whatever you want to say about it, and they just took the guy with the better physical traits. So I think you're going to look for that probably from now on as long as these guys are in charge.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the fact that the Jets picked Christian Hackenberg?
They needed a quarterback, and
they still don't have one.
It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think the guy's got talent, and I've read some stuff about the situation with Hackenberg, how he was there during the scandal with Penn State, and they had all the coaching changes and all this stuff, and it just almost sounds like what people say about Ryan Tannehill in a sense, is that he's not put in the best situation, but they've gotten good things about him now. From what I would have looked at from quarterbacks I've seen, I would have maybe had Connor Cook a little higher, but that's the guy they chose. Now the question is, we figure Colin Kaepernick's not going anywhere because San Francisco traded up last night. Everybody thought, oh, this is for a quarterback, and they took Garnett from Stanford. So the question for me now was the Jets taking this guy. I mean, that's they've got Geno Smith. He'll probably go into camp as a starter, and they'll have an actual competition and see who's going to win. And let's be fair to Geno Smith. If he wasn't on the Jets, we look at him as a guy, and we kind of pick on him for the plays that he makes and how bad he was. That's because he plays for the Jets. If he played for, the Rams, we wouldn't care about him. So I think Geno Smith can still have a chance if he's given a legitimate shot with, because Rex Ryan really wasn't about quarterbacks. But the question for me is, what's going to happen with Sam Bradford now? Because who out there needs a quarterback at this point?
I don't know. Quarterbacks. The quarterback situation just keeps kind of getting worse and worse. How about you, Greg? Christian Hackenberg.
Yeah, he doesn't do a whole lot for me. But listen, I think it's a fair point. He was the most highly touted quarterback prospect coming out of high school, and was in a really bad situation there at Penn State. It was frustrating for him. So by all accounts, he's got the physical tools, but certainly he's going to be somebody that they need to develop and see what he can do if he's got a little more organization around him and somebody that can block for him, because that was a big issue. He took so many sacks the last couple of years that that offense really struggled to get things going. So, hey, listen, I agree. I thought Connor Cook would be off the board before him, but that's the way these things go. And for the Jets, I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. They might as well just bring Fitzpatrick back, because they played good football with him, at least for the short term. They drafted the Baylor quarterback last year, and he's supposed to be a project as well. So certainly they seem to have a lot of question marks at one of the most important positions in all of sports. So that doesn't bother me when it's the Jets. So not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
the Dolphins.
yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Guys, I've enjoyed the conversation. I need to get going. So
all right, Greg. Hey, thanks for coming in, man. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Enjoy the rest of the draft tonight, and have a good rest of the show. And we'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, Greg. So that was Greg Likens, former host of the former Phinsiders. So he's still a good, awesome Dolphins follow. So go and check him out when you get the chance. So Christian Hackenberg, Duke. Do we have another caller there, Duke?
I don't know.
Are you making little Dolphins fans?
I'm changing a little Dolphins fan's diaper at the moment. So that's one of the joys of parenthood. You get to watch the draft and talk on podcasts and change diapers all at the same time.
Hey, well, you know what, man? Multitasking. It's a part of parenthood.
Yeah, you learn. You do things that you don't really expect. And I told one of my good friends, he's expecting his first child, and I said, one thing you'll learn is talking to someone with a child is like talking to someone with Tourette's. And you'll be talking to someone like this, and hey, put that down. And it just happens, It's just one of those things you learn to accept. So he's getting sleepy, so he'll get asleep here. He'll probably be asleep before the Dolphins pick again, unless there's a trade up. So
yeah, you got to start that indoctrination. You got to make sure they don't go off the beaten path and start rooting for the winner, New England.
Well, it's at some point you hope you can turn them into a Dolphins fan and they can be proud about it. And another good friend of mine, him and his wife are expecting twins, and they posted on Facebook when they announced it, and they were holding up little Dolphins jerseys for each. So that was how they announced it. And I next time I saw him, I said, "Why are you going to do that to them, man? Are you trying to teach them about pain and suffering?" So just kind of joking around, but it is what it is. And that's what I told you when we were down in South Carolina for training camp, is that you saw all those Dolphins fans there, and they're there because of Dan Marino, pretty much. I mean, a lot of these fans, if they haven't moved to the area, they became fans of the Dolphins because of Dan Marino, and it would be nice just to have a team they can be proud of. So, and I think they're working on it. I think the coaching change will help. Obviously, adding a guy like Larry Tunsil, who was the best player in the draft, will help, assuming all the off-field stuff works out. So I'm liking what I think the team's going to be surprisingly competitive this year. I'm probably one of I'm one of the optimistic fans, so it's going to. I'm always going to think stuff like that, but I think they're going to be more competitive. I mean, look at the teams they've had over the past few years, and they're aside from last year, they're really you don't see a lot of times where the Dolphins just get destroyed. Yeah, I mean they play the Patriots, and the Patriots usually beat them pretty bad once every year. But last year they got beat up by the Jets and the Bills pretty bad. Aside from that, they're usually in games, and it's one of those things you hear people say they just need to learn how to win, and that's a situation for them. They need to learn how to put away those games like the Jacksonville game where it was tied late in the fourth. You need to be able to do that. Now, obviously, running the ball is going to help. They only ran the ball, I think, 16 times that game. So, we know whose fault that was. But, it's when they get to that point, and they've got some talent on the team, they're going to get to a point where to me, it's like a breaking point. There's an edge that they teeter on. And right now they're falling back. They get to a point and they just can't make that winning play. And at some point, they're going to have just enough talent and they're going to be able to make just enough plays that they teeter the other way. And a team that could be 6-10 is going to turn into a 10-16. And, I think they can be competitive this year. I think they can, they've got 2 early games that are going to be really bad, play in Seattle and in New England. But if the Tom Brady thing holds up, he's going to be out for that game. The Seahawks don't have Marshawn Lynch anymore, who was a big part of their offense. So, and they have struggled recently and early in the season. Now, I'm not predicting a win on either of those games. Bill Belichick's still a great coach. He went 11-5 with Matt Castle.
Yeah.
And Seattle's still got a great defense. That's not changing. So, I'm not saying Miami can go in there and expect to win, but there are ways you can look at it and say, Miami can still be competitive in this game, and if things go the right way, they can get a win. So that's kind of how I look at it. So I think they're going to do well.
I hope you're right, Duke, because if things don't at least go right with Tannehill, at the very least, even if nothing else works, if Tannehill plays okay, then there will still be room for hope. But somehow, if he doesn't do well, I think it's going to go downhill really, really fast.
And the question I would have, and I asked this on the Insider, and I've asked it on other places, is what does Tannehill need to do to prove he's the guy this season? The response that I've got seems conflicting in the sense that people are expecting the Dolphins not to win games, but they want Tannehill to lead them to victory. And so if Tannehill puts up 3 touchdowns a game, that's Dan Marino territory. If he puts up 3 touchdowns a game and the Dolphins are only 5-11 because their defense isn't very good, are people going to say the same thing? Well, he's putting up garbage time stat. Or if the Dolphins defense can't get off the field and they're having to play from behind a lot and passing the ball, which historically doesn't work very well, the numbers reflect that. Plus, Tannehill's never been very good at that. He doesn't have his, and I'm not a QB wins guy, but he doesn't have wins. Like, for example, if you look at quarterbacks such as Andrew Luck has had 18 games in his career. No, he's had more than that. He's had 18 or 22, something like that, games in his career. I think it's 24, I'm sorry, where he has had to be 65% or greater of his offense. And he had 6 wins in those games. Tannehill has and this is a stat that I looked at, and I'm getting in there. I'm going to be quiet about it because I don't want to. I'm writing something on this, but I think he's never proven that they can just say, all right, we're going to stop running the ball and we can lean on Tannehill to win the game. He still needs to run the game, and all quarterbacks do. But there's quarterbacks out there like Tom Brady who would say, we can run the ball 10 times a game and we can still win because I'm Tom Brady. And Tannehill's just not proven to be that guy yet. So if they get in a situation like that, are fans, what are the coaches going to need to see from Tannehill to say, hey, he's our guy, even though our record's not very good? Because most people aren't expecting the record to be very good, but they want Tannehill to excel. And it's kind of like, well, we don't expect him to win, but we want Tannehill to excel. If he excels, wouldn't that mean more wins? I just don't know what people are thinking. And so it is kind of confusing me.
I think if there's anything that Tannehill needs to show, at this point, I don't even care about wins, because wins is a team thing, and if anybody who doesn't get that is dumb, we already understand this. It's like, it should be common knowledge by now, but it's not, but I digress. In any case, what Ryan Tannehill needs to do more than anything is just be consistent. I think if that is the one thing that I feel like Tannehill, if he could find a way to just be consistent, then I think we would be good to go. Because even you and me, Duke, who Mackenzie Alexander just went to Minnesota. Okay, so no more falling for him. Okay, anyway, so I think the one thing that he needs to be able to do is just be consistent. Even you and I would admit that there have been times where Tannehill looks like a rock star, and then there are times where Tannehill looks like the guy who's playing his instrument on the street looking for quarters. So that inconsistency gets on a lot of people's nerves, and it gets on my nerves too. I mean, again, this is part of a big reason why Tannehill is not perfect. He looks good, and then he looks really bad. So it's a mixed bag. If he can get to the point where he just looks good all the time, or at least most of the time, then I think we'd have something. But so far, if it keeps going the seesaw effect, then yeah, I can understand why the frustration continues to build.
I mean, it's just so hard. A lot of people say, well, he can't read defenses. And my response is, how do you know? And I say, well, he could have called this guy, picked up a blitzer. Or he could have recognized this blitz or done this or that. I'm like, he could not audible. We know he couldn't do that. What exactly, when he's just sitting there and he can't do anything at the line of scrimmage much? And a prime example that I covered in my Bills post for the site last week was that there was a play, and I know this has had to be the situation. And one guy on the site argued with me completely differently, and I'm like, you don't understand. They had caught a play where Tannehill had basically, it was a Kenny Stills was lined up out to the right and basically just ran straight across the field. It wasn't even a slant. It was just a straight in cut. Jake Stoneburner ran the same route from the tight end position in line, and Devontae Parker ran the same route from the left side, and they all met at the center of the field. And the entire purpose of that route, the play call was okay. The entire purpose of that route was to get Jarvis Landry, who was lined up in the backfield, on the wheel route. And Tannehill was going to take a snap and turn and throw it to him. And he had wide open fields. The problem was there was a blitz that came in, and the Dolphins, after so well, he didn't pick up the blitz. One guy said, well, he should have thrown it to wide open guys in the middle of the field. I'm like, they weren't wide open. They were bunched together. They were within 5 yards of each other. That's not being open. That is a terrible set of routes to run if it was a different play. But the point is, it was like there was a situation there where Tannehill could not get out of that play. So how do we know he could not read the defense? And what happened was he tried to throw the ball, but the pressure got there so quickly on the blitz that the edge linebacker that was rushing the passer didn't even have time to engage the offensive tackle. He just stood there in the passing lane, picked it off, and got an interception. And got a touchdown out of it, I'm sorry. And people said, well, see, if Tannehill could read the blitz, that wouldn't have happened. He said, no, first of all, Dallas Thomas missed an assignment, or he was late on an assignment. So even if he didn't pick up the blitz, or he slows the guy down enough that Tannehill makes the play. Second thing is, The play call itself wasn't bad, but Tannehill, even if he could read the defense, could not change out of it. And then there are other times where we see plays that they run that should work and don't simply because somebody else fails. And so what I really want to see, and I know this sounds, kind of tried in a way, but I want to see a situation that's almost ideal. I want to see a good offensive line, not PFF's worst-rated offensive line. I want to see one that's good. I want to see a situation where Tannehill can call plays at the line of scrimmage, and I want to see these guys execute. If Tannehill gets up there and he's throwing to the defense all the time and he's getting sacked a bunch of times on his own fault, so be it. That's what you want to know. He was not able to do that with Philbin, and so here it is year 5, and we still don't know everything he's capable of. And people say, well, if you're 5, we know who he is by now. No, you don't, because he was so limited by a really bad coaching staff.
It's very simple logic. You want to make sure that if a guy fails, you fail him on his own. My mother keeps coming up with this analogy, and it seems that every person she tells it to, they kind of adopt it as their own later on. If you want someone to make a cake, you don't give them like concrete and rocks and tell them to make it. You have to let them get their own ingredients. That's the same thing that's going on with Ryan Tannehill. You need him to be able to have his own freedom, his own way of doing things, his own freedom. Essentially, just take the handcuffs off of him. It's very hard. It's very difficult and actually very counterproductive to say that somebody sucks if the coaching staff is literally saying we're going to control you like you're our own personal little robot. That doesn't work. If you can't say it's his fault when they're controlling him. If he's gonna fail, let him fail on his own, not just because the coaching staff dragged him down with him. If you want to see him fail on his own, stop holding his hands. That's very simple. I don't. It didn't come out very nicely when Greg Jennings said it, but I agree with the sentiment. You need to take the baby bottle out of his mouth and let him try to eat real food. If he can't eat it, time to move on. It's very simple.
Yeah, and I don't think the Dolphins really tried to help him out that much. Early in his career, his first game. Now, let's look at another guy the Dolphins could have drafted several years ago, Matt Ryan. He walked into the league immediately with Tony Gonzalez. He had Michael Turner at running back, and he had Roddy White on his roster. Tannehill's first game as a Dolphin, he had Reggie Bush as a running back. It's pretty good. He had Legadou Nani, Brian Hartline, and Devon Best. I mean, people say, well, great quarterbacks do stuff. No, don't give me that. I mean, yeah, they might can do better than what Tannehill did, but he's a rookie quarterback. He was very inexperienced in college, and they stuck him in a bad situation. So Jeff Island goes out and tries to make the situation better. He gets Brandon Gibson, who was playing very well until he got hurt. Well, the Bears just made a good pick.
Yeah, they just picked up Cody Whitehair, so there goes that guard dream for Miami. But I don't think with Tunsil we didn't really needed to worry about that.
That all changed with Tunsil. But so they went out and got him. Well, they needed speed. They had the slowest wide receiver core in the league, so they went out and got
the fastest guy out there.
Yeah, fastest guy who was a free agent. Had to pay a bunch of nothing. They brought him in to be a number one. Now, I want to say this. I'm not a Mike Wallace fan. I think that I think the situation, however, was that he was overpaid in Miami. If he had, for what Miami really wanted him for, I mean, they wanted him to be a number one guy. That's not who he is. And in his last season here, I think that was Lazer's first year. I think the situation was that they needed They basically just wanted a guy to run deep. And I made the joke. I said it's not really a joke so much, even that for a fraction of the price, Miami could have just signed Ted Ginn again. Because if all you need is a guy of deep speed just to scare the defense, that's what you need. You needed a guy that could run underneath. They got rid of Brandon Marshall. They didn't have a single guy on the roster, save for Rashard Matthews, who could make those big catches across the middle, like a Brandon Marshall does. You need a guy that can work an intermediate zone, the 10 to 15-yard zone in the middle where those safeties are. That's what you've got with Devontae Parker now. But it wasn't until year 4 that they got Devontae Parker. They never committed to the run. Aside from Tannehill's first season, they ran the ball 60+% of the time every year. Last year, it was 67% or 65%, something ridiculous. You just can't win like that. You can't, especially, and you have a guy like Lamar Miller who was running well. They just, it was just stuff like that. I want to see him put in a situation where he can play his best, and he's just not been in that situation. I like the receiver core now. I like Devontae Parker. I like Kenny Stills. I think Kenny Stills had a down year last year. I think he's a better player than what he played as. I like, obviously, Jarvis Landry. He's that guy in the slot. He's going to, it's Tannehill's favorite target. You could tell toward the end of the season, Tannehill likes throwing to Devontae Parker. The stuff that I've been reading from the past few days of the practices they had, that, he's hitting guys in stride, and it's 7-on-7. That's not a big deal. I mean, it's different when there's a pocket and there's people running around you. But I think working with these guys, he didn't have the dynamic too, where you had the veteran guys like Wallace, who got paid a bunch of money. Now Tannehill is the leader. He's the quarterback, and those are his guys. I love that situation, and I think they're going to do very well this year. I hope they use Jordan Cameron, and I'll be honest, if Miami decided to go offense again, I wouldn't mind them taking a guy like Tyler Higbee. Now they'd have to do it probably in the 3rd round with losing the 4th round pick. But I like Tyler Higbee. Everything that I've read about him says they compare him to another Jordan Cameron. I can see them having a double tight end set. I think Tannehill likes throwing to Cameron. I don't think the two of them had a great connection last year, but I think it was because I think there's a lot more to that, because the season started, that was the guy Tannehill looked for. Jordan Cameron had good games early in the season, and they went away from him for whatever reason. So, I think he's in a good situation now. If Adam Gase will commit to running the ball, I think we're going to see a much improved Tannehill. I don't know about statistics, but I think he'll throw more touchdowns. I think the offense will be better all across the board. And if that happens, I think the Dolphins can be more competitive. Suddenly we're, instead of 3rd and 8, it's 3rd and 2. And Miami can go with a heavy-looking set and run a screen pass and pick up 15 yards out of it. Instead of 3rd and 8, the defense knows they're going to pass, and they unleash the dogs on Tannehill. And we watched the guards that they had get pushed back by a safety onto their tail end. And, I've talked a lot, so I'll hush.
No, this whole season pretty much revolves around Tannehill in some way. I mean, without if he doesn't improve, at least if he doesn't start looking consistent, then stuff isn't gonna go good. It's not gonna be a happy time. So the Steelers are getting ready to pick now, and I don't know, Duke. I'm starting to run out of knowledge on these guys. I mean, I'm not a draft guy. I usually leave that to you. But these,
I don't know now that I don't know what the Steelers do defensively now that Dick LeBeau is in Tennessee. I don't know if they still run a 3-4. I know Mike Tomlin was a 4-3 guy before he got picked up by Pittsburgh. So if they're going to stick with what I think they would need, I would say Andrew Billings is a guy in play here. They like to uh, beef up that defensive front, and he's probably the best nose tackle in the draft. He can provide some pass rush. He's a guy that I think that the Steelers would love. Um, so we'll see.
Recently they took TJ Green off the board. That was the other Clemson guy. I can't believe that. I'm still a little baffled by how far Alexander fell, and the fact that his teammate got picked up like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 picks later. I mean, that just goes to show, I guess they're not really buying into the whole Clemson defense thing.
Yeah, and hang on, I'll wait till the pick comes in.
So much swagger. Okay. Sean Davis.
They're beefing up their secondary. All right. So that was one guy I've seen a lot of people talk about with Miami, but they listen to the safety. Some people think he's a corner. I don't know. But at any rate, I think, I've lost my train of thought. What were we talking about before the pick?
We were talking about Ryan Tannehill again, but I think we've talked enough about him so far.
No, it was something else, and I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it was right before the pick. But anyway,
You know what, Duke? Why don't we go ahead and take like a 5 minute break? No, don't hang up or anything, but we're gonna take a quick 5 minute
sure,
break, and then we're gonna come back and see what's going on. So stay tuned, ladies and
sure.
gentlemen. Hang on, I gotta say this. We'll come back in a minute, but I just have to say this because I'm sorry. Did they just pick a kicker with in the second round? That was Tampa Bay. Okay, we'll be right back, folks. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about now.
Hello? Hello?
And we're back, and looks like New England's going to finally make their first pick of the draft. And that pick is Cyrus Jones out of Alabama.
That's a good pick.
Well, I suppose if you're going to be the New England Patriots, then you're going to have to find somebody you can supposedly count on. So why not somebody who's been peaked already?
He is their answer to. They hope their answer to Jarvis Landry.
Oh, so he's going to be like the slot guy.
Yes, and I watched him at the combine. He had undoubtedly the best feet. He very technical, very smooth. Um, but if he was 6'1", he'd be a first round pick. He's just a smaller guy.
So this is a size issue here. Well, I guess New England.
I think he's only like 5'9" or something.
Yeah, that's what it said. Oh, and he switched from wide receiver to corner. Okay, that sounds familiar. So he's gonna be. So this guy Jones is gonna be the Patriots version of Tony Lippett.
No, he played corner at Alabama.
Huh?
He played corner at Alabama.
Yeah, but so did Tony Lippett, but he didn't. It wasn't his main position.
I thought Cyrus Jones, he played it all last year, I thought.
It said that he switched from wide receiver to corner.
I think he did at some point in his career, but I think he played at least last season, not last 2 seasons at corner.
Okay, so he does. He has more experience.
Yeah, a lot.
All right, so I mean, if you're New England, I would imagine you're going to try and look for a sure thing. You missed out on your first round draft pick. You practically gave Cleveland yours since they got to pick 32. So if you're gonna pick, it makes sense just strictly speaking because Alabama's notorious for being able to do that. Okay, wait a minute, what's this? Okay, so Saints get 61 and the Patriots get 2 more. Okay, yeah, well, I guess New England's looking for picks now.
Yeah, and while we went on a break, the Buccaneers selected a
Oh yeah,
kicker.
that's right. I forgot about that already. Robert Aguayo. Aguava?
I don't know how to say it.
But it's like a kicker. It must be the grimy influence.
Well, a lot of people had a high grade on him. I don't know why you have that high grade on a kicker.
He's a kicker. I don't care how high. I don't care if he's the best kicker to come out in 10 years. You don't spend your second round pick on a kicker.
Yeah, it's just one of the things. Now remember what we were talking about before. We were talking about the Clemson defense, and I don't see. You talk about Mackenzie Alexander falling as far as he did, and I thought there was a lot of people that had lower round grades on him, or lower grades on him than what everybody else did. And I think a lot of people got caught up in the stats. Oh, he only allowed this passer rating. He didn't allow a touchdown. He all the stuff. And I'm like, yep. But there was areas of tape where what he did looked very questionable. And I'm sure that's that way for any cornerback. I don't think he was the lockdown guy that people were making him out to be.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I see so many people who came out and said that Alexander was this good. He was first round talent. He was this guy who could potentially be better than Hargreaves. Ian Wharton, I have a lot of respect for him. He said he liked him better. He liked Alexander better than Hargreaves. And then you see Hargreaves go to Tampa in first round, and then Alexander dropping all the way down here. It's like, well, okay, I guess he got that one wrong. Either that or everybody else got it wrong. So we'll have to wait and see how it happens there. I think once Miami picks, I think once Miami picks in the third round, we're gonna call this a night. It's already been a really long night. So I kind of don't want to have to spend the next 2 hours continuing on. So once Miami picks, we're gonna
Uh,
call this a night.
oh wait, watch them trade back into the bottom end of that third round too.
Oh my gosh, dude, don't do that to me. It's like I have somewhere to be tomorrow. I should be in bed already.
Yeah, that's how it goes. This is the draft. I kind of prefer the old draft method or format where you did all 7 rounds on Saturday. Um, I like that. I remember I remember them doing that, and then I think it was um, wasn't it the 2000? I'm trying to think of the 2009 draft. No, the 2009 draft was the last day. I think the last year they did it all in one time, and then the 2010 draft they decided to split it into multiple days. And because I remember going to watch the first round, my brother was in college, and I went up to visit him and his roommate, and we watched the draft. Oh, it was like I think they did it on Thursday night, and then um, I think they did all the rest of the draft the next day. I don't remember if they split it all up into 3 days, and I remember at one point they went from 2 days to 3 days. That may have been 2011, and that was, it's fun because you get to kind of drag it out, and I'm sure GMs kind of like it because you get done with the first round, you get to go back and reevaluate, kind of look at things, reset your board, um, you know.
Yeah, it gives them a
And
little extra time to think. I understand it, but it's like, man, what happened to the 5 o'clock? It's like that would have been so much better. I guess they're thinking that since tomorrow is Saturday, then people are not going to be like getting all up in the morning. I'll go to get up early and whatever. There's Saturday's usually considered the sleep-in day, so sure, why not more 7 o'clock?
and this and these rounds are always those rounds are always quick anyway. And by that, and usually let's just talk about best player available. And I think it's Brian Billick said it should come. I said, he said you'd be amazed how often when we were at the when we would draft the best player available, he just happened to fit a need. I think last night was probably the first time Miami took a best player available that while Tunzel fits a need, the offensive line um, needed help.
Is that Cam?
He was truly
Sorry, I hate to cut you off. Is that Cam Newton? No, it's not. Chris
no,
Cam. First, he did the dab thing, and I'm like, that's not Cam. It can't be.
no. Cam towered over Goodell.
Yeah, they picked James Bradbury. Okay.
He was the name. He was the name. I think he's from Sanford, former Southern Conference foe of Appalachian State. Um, I think he's a plus 6 foot corner. He's the guy I think that people had mentioned for the Dolphins. So I think the biggest thing from what I've seen on Twitter is I think a lot of people are upset because Greer said they expected a run on corners and there really hasn't been one to explain the trade up. But
Well, there is one. They just
they never. You don't know what's being said behind the doors, and I'm sure that's how he explains it because that's what he's going to tell people. Um, you know, I get amazed at people sometimes. Like, I wish the coaches would be more transparent. They're not going to be transparent. They're going to say the same stuff they always say. Every coach, I mean, yeah, they might have a little different personality about it, but seriously, it's all Coach Steve. Oh, you can interview Ryan Tannehill, and unless you're actually talking to him, I guess man for man as a person with no camera or recorder on, he's going to say the same thing. He's going to use the word exciting a few times, get better, all the same stuff. I mean, it's what players and coaches do.
I was saying that on Twitter earlier today. Usually, you're better off if you're as boring as possible in press conferences. If you are exciting in a press conference, you usually said something wrong.
Or you just have a person like Dan Campbell was exciting for different reasons.
Well, Dan Campbell said stuff I would have kept to myself, like the fact that I told Tannehill not to run. That was of something big time. Yeah, no.
I'm surprised Andrew Billings is still on the board.
Something must be up with him. Adam
Yeah,
Gotsis. I don't know who that is either.
the thing with Billings is a lot of people had him as like a mid first round pick on the mocks or whatever. I think the main thing is just teams don't really have teams. You know, a lot of teams still run, even though they're 3-4, they still run a 4-man front a lot of times. They run nickel packages, whatever else. And they may be viewing him as strictly a nose tackle, as a guy who cannot, be. Who is that? Is that the?
I think they're applauding for the Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, is that all the players that were nominated? Because if that was all the players that was nominated this year, we will see Ryan Tannehill.
I can't hear what they're saying. Let me see if I can get some volume.
No, those are draft picks.
They're what now?
Those are, I think those were. They look like Ashawn Reed or Ashawn Johnson or whatever his name was up there. Jackson Johnson. Yeah, I don't remember. I'm really interested to see how many picks in the third round. What position they go. There's not really been a run on running backs. And they don't have a fourth round pick, so they can't really wait. I would hope they could trade down if they wanted to.
Yeah, but trade down for what? I mean, what? I guess they would get like another 6th rounder or something. But at that point,
it depends what they. I mean, it depends what they give up. I don't think they trade out of the third round completely, but if they trade down, let's say they're Tennessee 64th pick, so 173rd pick, go to say 90. They could probably pick up a fourth, recoup the fourth, and move down. I don't know if they will.
Well, if nothing else, I'm hoping they stay put because I need to call this a night.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the life of
there's not really
a life of a radio host.
There's not really been a run on linebackers that much either.
Well, they got Deion Jones. Is that his name?
Oh, there was Deion Jones.
Ragland.
I mean,
he went a little bit before.
There's been some edge guys. I haven't seen any more 4-3 type guys or guys that would fit what Miami wants to do.
As for the running backs, you mentioned the running backs as well, but I'm like,
let me go to my draft board here.
Oh, sweet.
I don't know who would still be available. The draft board I use I don't think they mark players off.
Well, that's better than what I have, which is nothing.
The draft board I prefer to use when doing mock drafts or any of that stuff is, I'll tell you the end of this year, which is I'm kind of glad of, is I like CBS Sports. It's all kind of in one spot, and you don't have to. They're usually fairly accurate.
Right there. Sorry, Duke. Right there on the screen. They're showing Mayock's top 100 best available. So, yeah, Billings is up there at the top.
Who is tight end? Adams, Devontae Booker, LaRaven Clark.
The Titans again. How many picks did the Titans have?
A bunch. Because remember they traded down, but they gave up a future pick. So.
Yeah, but it feels like they gave up It feels like they picked like 6 times in the first 3 rounds.
Well, to look at this board that I've got, Andrew Billings is ranked 33rd. Will Fuller is ranked. I'm looking at the wrong Fuller. Never mind. Will Fuller's the receiver. Who's the other Fuller? He's a cornerback. I don't know where they have him listed.
Okay, who'd the Titans pick? Kevin Byard?
Safety from whoever that is. I've heard a lot of people were high on him.
I haven't heard much about many safeties at all. I mean, unless you counted Ramsey, who could be a safety. I have really not heard much about any safeties at all. So surprised.
Well, on CBS's board, they have him listed as the 105th top prospect. So there's still some good guys available that Miami could pick from, and they're still going to get a good player here. Let me see who. Let me just throw out some names for your loyal listeners.
By now, oh, hello, we got something. Hello, caller person, who I know who you are. Nice to have you back.
Hey, I got resituated here. So,
oh, thank goodness.
Mackenzie went in the second round.
Let me throw a name out here after this pick, because this will probably be who Cleveland takes.
Pick a quarterback. Pick a quarterback.
This will not be a bad spot for a quarterback.
Pick somebody. You already picked Hackenberg, so they got whoever it is can't be worse.
Yeah, I thought the Jets got Hackenberg, right?
Yep. And all Jets fans said, and what was one Jets fan said? How do I take this bleach? Do I drink it or inject it? Carl Nassib. Carl
Nassib. Okay. A guy that is still here's some names on the board for Miami. Okay. Kendall Fuller, cornerback.
Okay.
Floyd Calhoun.
Floyd Calhoun.
He hasn't been drafted yet, right? I didn't miss that.
No, I don't think he has, but I don't know what position he plays. What is it?
He is a defensive end.
Okay.
If Miami goes to the 4-3 they would use him as that Leo position, which is kind of that wide edge rusher. He's not much of, from everything I've read, he's not much of a run defender. He is very much strictly a pass rush specialist. So you're sitting in the third round. You've got older defensive ends. That would be a guy I could see them going for. He was even, I've even heard that he was a potential first round pick for Miami. CJ Procease.
I'm honestly
running back.
not sure.
I'll go Procease. That's what I've heard before. Darian Thompson, safety for Boise State, which I would not be surprised if that's who San Diego didn't pick right here. Bronson Kafusi, defensive end from Brigham Young. Braxton Miller, even though that's not a need for Miami.
Is he still on the board, Braxton Miller?
Still on the board, as far as I know.
But isn't he a quarterback? Or is he a wide receiver who played quarterback?
He started out as a wide receiver or as a quarterback. They moved him to wide receiver, so that's his permanent position.
Okay.
Didn't he have a really good showing? I was thinking he did.
Max Turk? Okay.
All right.
Well, that's who just got drafted by the Chargers. Max Turk, center USC.
Kenneth Dixon, running back, Louisiana Tech.
I think they're pretty high on him, dude. Dixon,
I like him more than Derrick Henry. At this point, you're not looking at a lead guy. At this point, based on everything that's happened in the draft, Jay Ajayi is your starter. So, if I bring him in here, I've already mentioned Tyler Higbee from, I think, Western Kentucky. I think he's more of a fourth-round guy. That's where he would project to go. But Miami doesn't have a fourth-round pick, so I'm throwing out names. Sheldon Day, that would be a pretty good pick. Charles Tapper, defensive end. Paul Perkins, running back. Jalen Mills is another cornerback that can play safety. And I think it was that I saw him on Twitter. What's his name? Brandon Howard. I was really high on him. So I'm just throwing out some names here. A good name here, Yannick Ngakwe. Try to spell that one. And of course, there's some inside linebackers. Matkovic.
Nick Vigil.
Who's that?
Zach Vigil's brother.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know where they have him rated on this board. I just got the whole board pulled up.
See if you can find him.
I think my opinion right now for the Dolphins is the two most likely spots are going to be another corner or a running back. I think that's what they're going to be looking at. You mentioned Fuller, right? He's at the corner.
Kendall Fuller's still there.
Yeah, Kendall Fuller had a really strong sophomore season in college. Looked like a number one corner, and then he was injured last year. And so I think he's intriguing. I don't know if they'll go another corner. So right now with Xavier, Tony Lippett, and Barry Maxwell, they have three big corners that are going to play on the outside, and they have Bobby McCain in the middle. When Neil was on earlier, he had mentioned the idea that maybe they're targeting Leon Hall to come in and be one of their guys to play in the slot corner position. So I don't know if they are still looking for another corner yet or not, but I think Fuller would be a guy to keep an eye on that can come in and play. But right now, I really feel like they're looking at them running backs with their fourth-round pick gone. I know they talked to Arian Foster, and he'd be a possibility to be a 5 to 10 carry guy to split with Ajayi, but I have to think they're really looking at getting that running back like down in the third round.
Yeah, and a cornerback that I think at this point Miami would show some interest in is Rashard Robinson.
Okay.
He is an extremely talented cornerback. He is, as far as everything I've read about him, on the field, he is very much like a first-round talent type. Off the field,
yeah. What do he do?
He just wasn't very good academically. He got kicked off the team, or it was one of those situations. I don't know all the stuff, but it's one of those that, what's the phrase? $1 million talent, 10-cent head.
Did he have domestic violence?
I don't think it's anything like that. I know he did. He did not actually play football last year for LSU. So I think that's he's going to fall because of that. But some team will take him. I could absolutely see a team like Seattle take him right here because they got to lose and turn him into the next best thing.
All right, so Dallas again. They didn't get Miles Jack. Did they even get their linebacker? I don't think they did.
They got Jalen Smith.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
That was the craziest selection I thought.
Smith before Jack.
I loved Jalen Smith in college, obviously, but that's giving up a high number two. I mean, when the Cowboys picked him, there's first-round talent all over the place on the board. They're taking a guy that's not even going to play for this coming year, and it'd be really questionable from then on. So
defensive Malik Collins. Okay. Still no Andrew Billings.
Braxton Miller. I'm shocked he's still on the board. To be honest, that guy looked really good. I thought he was going to be probably the third or fourth receiver taken.
The thing about Braxton Miller, and I watched him some at the Senior Bowl practices, and he looks pretty good. But he is very unrefined at the receiver position. And if there was a team that would take him, it would be a team like the Patriots that would use him as a gimmick. But if you're asking him to come in and be a starter right now, I don't think he could be. I think he's got a lot to learn about the nuances of the position to play it effectively. So whoever takes him is going to use him they're going to use him on end arounds, jet sweeps, all that kind of stuff. They'll use him mostly in the slot where he won't have to get a lot of press coverage and some stuff like that. And I think that's where he will excel.
Kind of a Kenny Stills type of player.
Well, yeah, something. You're waiting till year 2 or 3 before this guy is the guy. So that's why I think he wouldn't go higher, simply because if you draft him and say early in the second round, he's going to have to come and contribute immediately, and I don't think he's that guy yet.
Okay, that makes sense. 49ers selections coming in. I had to jump off the show. What did you think of the Xavier Howard pick by the Dolphins?
Well, we already talked about it, so I think you're going to have to go first. What did you think about the Xavier Howard pick?
For me, what did I think?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an issue with the pick. I found it surprising they moved up to get him. It didn't appear to me the way the board was playing that they were going to have to.
No, well, go ahead, Duke. What was that? We'll get back to you in a second, Chad. What is it?
I was talking to myself. I was thinking, the 49ers just took Will Redmond, and I was thinking of another player that I thought would go a lot lower. So, I was thinking of somebody else, so it didn't matter. So I was just talking to myself out loud. I'm sorry.
No, it's no big deal. But I mean, if it was wow worthy to you, I guess San Fran is just looking to grab as many people as they can. Like they don't care.
Well, this guy's rated in the correct zone. The guy that I'm thinking about is a later round pick prospect. Let me see if I can find his name here that I was looking at. I can't remember who he plays for. But I thought it was somewhere like it may be that Kalen Reed for Mississippi.
We'll get back to that in a minute, Duke. I want to get Chad's idea on Xavier Howard before Miami winds up picking again. It's going to happen real quick.
Oh so, no, I just I didn't have an issue with the pick. It was clearly a need position, and he's clearly what they're going for. For a scheme, they want big corners so they can play up and press and physical corners, and so he fits that bill. But I mean, I know pretty confidently I don't think Tampa Bay was going to target him, so they had to think that the Chicago Bears were going to take him. And so that was the only thing I was questioning is did they have to give up a 4th round pick to just jump up a couple spots to grab him for where he was at? Because he wasn't if you look at the mocks and where he's rated on the board, he was more of a late second round talent, and they jumped up 2 spots to get him. So I wasn't sure whether they just decided that was the guy they wanted and they didn't want to risk it or what that reasoning was.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same impression that we got. Okay, so Jacksonville just made their pick. Yannick I'm not even going to try.
Ngakoue.
Ngakoue,
yes.
We got a lot of funky names this year.
I'm telling you guys, Jacksonville is going to be competing for the AFC South this year. I like the team they're putting together. I already like kind of the base team they have put together. They have a good power runner. They've got the young quarterback. Now they've added tremendous defensive back in Ramsey, and then they're throwing Miles Jack in there with them. They have to play with Telvin Smith. They've got some good D tackles. They're going to be. I'm glad we played them last year. They're going to be a competitive team. I think the Colts' reign on the AFC South is over, guys. That's what I'm calling.
But then nobody's going to admit it until Andrew Luck is out of the picture.
They don't have that much of a team around. They've got some tremendous skill at the receivers, and they got Luck. But other than that, what are the Colts?
Oh, we know that. We know that. But it's who's the most famous quarterback?
Yeah, they got the quarterback. But
who makes them the most? Who makes the NFL the most money?
They never have been. The Colts have never been a great team. They've just always had the benefit of a really weak division, and I think those days are. The Titans are getting significantly better, and the Jaguars are getting significantly better.
I do not disagree with anything you're saying. I understand and I wholeheartedly agree with you, but I also know that they're going to keep pushing Andrew Luck on us until somebody finally dethrones him, like for real.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So Baltimore next, the Giants, the Bears, and Miami, unless they trade down. I already,
They're going.
I had already made.
They're,
Go ahead,
so they're going to trade down to the end and just keep you awake.
Duke. I swear.
Who's your? If you guys, here's a question for you guys. If Miami is going to go running back, who's your best running back on the board right now?
I wouldn't mind CJ Process if only because he's kind of like the receiving back that we need. I'm starting to lose faith in Damian Williams. Ajayi, he seems to think of himself as a bruiser, and he's trying to add some speed by losing a little bit of weight and just gaining more muscle. But so if Process can be the receiving Darren Sproles type of back, I think Adam Gase could get a lot out of that.
Okay, how about you, Duke?
I mean, I would go from everything that I've read, and I've not watched a lot of film this year, unfortunately. So everything that I've read, the guy would be Kenneth Dixon.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. Is I know they had him in for an extensive visit, and they like his skill set, but that's why I think they're.
I know they like Devontae Booker, but isn't he going to be like 24 before the season starts? When he's an older player. I don't know. I think they're going to go. I don't know if they would go running back here. Ideally, they would like to trade back and get their fourth rounder back. But
Are you sure you're not just trolling me?
no, I mean I'm just saying from their perspective, that's what you'd like to do here. You want to trade down and get your fourth round pick back, and if you could, I mean, you have to trade a long way down to get it. You're not going to move 5 spots and get it back most likely.
Yeah.
So. But if they don't, I think it could be a linebacker. And one of the things I've seen on Twitter is there are players that the Dolphins want to move, and one of them could be Jelani Jenkins.
Well, I wouldn't mind moving because Neville Hewitt is certainly showing a lot of promise, and he plays Jenkins' spot.
Well, it wouldn't be Hewitt; it would be Kiko Alonso. It would move to Will, and he draft a middle linebacker. So I think that would be who, if they take a guy like say Kentrell Brothers or Scooby Wright, whoever's available there, I could see that being a move, and that might be how you get your fourth round pick back.
Yeah, I don't know if depending on where I get the moves from, but I would say if it's just like a 10-spot drop or something like that, you're probably looking at a fifth. But I mean, it still wouldn't be a bad move if they lost their fourth to maybe get a second, fifth. I could see it like that. I don't know that a team will give up a fourth to jump up 10 spots in the third or something. Or I guess it just depends how far back the Dolphins are willing to fall, who they're targeting. But I think they do have some playroom if they're going to take them back. I don't think they have to take them right here. I think the door's closing right now for them to get a running back. I obviously they're comfortable, I think, with Ajayi as being their number one back, but they don't have anything reminiscent of the number two right now. It's definitely not Daniel Thomas. I don't care. He showed up in good shape, and it's not going to be Damian Williams. Those are not their number two running backs. And again, Arian Foster is just nothing but a crapshoot whether he's going to actually be ready and back to be healthy. And so they're going to have to get that back locked down here sooner than later. I think that's what they got to do.
Baltimore picks Bronson Kafusi. Okay, I don't know who Bronson Kafusi is either.
He's a DN from BYU, it looks like.
Yeah, that I can see, but it's like another weird name that I don't know much about.
Yeah, they're just making it hard on the people that cover it.
It's like I swear they're just like all the guys with the funky names are coming out all at once just to see if they can mess up somebody.
That's funny.
It's a competition. Let's see whose name they screw up first.
If you're going to screw one up, then Gakwe was the way to do it. Maurice Jones-Drew did it.
Gakwe. Oh, who's this little man?
Kafusi.
Okay, who's this little man? Is this a little pun on Little Giants?
The Kafusi?
No, this kid is coming up to read the name.
Oh, I don't know. I'm watching NFL Network, so I'm watching footage on the guy who's got drafted.
Oh,
Or excuse me, I'm watching ESPN too. Forgive me. That's what I meant to say.
uh,
Yes, you must be watching NFL Network.
yeah, we're watching NFL Network. Like
And Dolphins,
ESPN will just keep
Twitter's,
asking, "What's up? What's going on with Dolphins Twitter?"
Dol- oh, they are, because Miami is on the clock, and I'm not going to look now because Armando will tweet it out, so I'm not going to read
Yeah,
it.
Armando, blow it for everybody. Okay, yeah, we're
He
gonna.
already has
So,
the pick.
well, I think because they go to commercial and play this live, I think we're actually watching a very much tape delayed.
There's a
version of
delay.
this.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay,
So
so
Miami's probably, actually,
there
in
goes
reality,
Darian
on the
Thompson
clock.
to the Giants.
Yeah, Darian Thompson, safety, Boise State. That's what T has shown for the Giants.
I don't think Miami's going to go safety. That's why they went with IAQ. I like Michael Thomas at safety. I think Jamar Taylor should move to safety, but whatever.
Well, let's see how Camp plays out. Right now, if they're going to need another guy that can play in the slot. I think more than anything, because clearly they're going to have the big corners on the boundary. So we'll see with Jamar Taylor. Jamar Taylor definitely doesn't fit the mold of what they're looking for on boundary corners. I don't know if he can play in the slot, and if he can't, maybe they will move him back to safety. Be a better fit.
I think he plays better when the ball is in front of him, and I think he does well in that way. I watched the preseason game against Carolina. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you also have the Rashad Jones issue where if he does, in fact, start holding out, they're going to have extra reps available at the safety position. And, you're probably not going to replace Rashad Jones because at some point he'll be back to play, you have to assume. And so that might be a perfect time to work Jamar Taylor.
If Miami takes Ronald Blair, I may have to get off the phone and scream or something.
Scream in happiness or scream in rage?
Oh, happiness. That's my Twitter avatar. That thing going around. Put your favorite draft prospect. He is an Appalachian State player. So
what is
that's
Blair?
Why Appalachian State.
No. What is Blair?
He for Miami. He's listed as a defensive end. He would be a Derek Shelby type. A run stuffing defensive end on the left side, moving to 3-tech and nickel for pass rushing purposes. If Miami stays in the 4-3 under, he would be your 5-tech.
Okay.
Appalachian plays a 3-4, so he plays a similar role there. He's a little on the small side for a 5-tech, but whatever.
Okay, I looked at Twitter and I shouldn't have. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I'm sticking with running back, even though you know Lewis.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Duke. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be thrilled because it wasn't Blair.
Well, I didn't figure it would be. I just said if it was. CBS has him listed as a 3rd to 4th round pick, so I figured
on a side note, while we're waiting, has anybody heard of did Deion Jordan apply to get reinstated?
I haven't heard anything about Deion Jordan, period.
I haven't either, but yesterday he could apply to be reactivated and join the Dolphins. So
maybe Kiko needs to give him a phone call.
Yeah, I'm just curious whether he
dude,
did.
get your butt in gear.
Well, I'm not even entirely certain he's going to attempt to return. That's what I was wondering if he did. If he's had drug issues or he's way out of shape, he may not even be planning on applying to come back.
Yeah, that's what you
Imagine they know. The Dolphins got to know.
They're not going to say anything, though.
No, but they had to know in terms of the draft. They're not going to be looking at him as a starter, but if Deion Jordan is back and ready to go, you could look at him maybe as your 3rd or 4th D end in the rotation. You know what I'm saying? It could impact what they do in the middle of these rounds, whether they want another D end or not.
Notable 3rd round picks. Thank you, Madden, for showing us the fake versions. of these players. Okay, so after the Bears is going to be Miami, and then we're going to call it a night. We're going to give a quick reaction to what happened with whoever Miami picks, which I already know, but I don't know anything about, so I'm waiting. And then we're going to go ahead and call it a night. So it's 10 o'clock, so we've been going for about 3.5 hours. So I think we'll be done as soon as Miami's makes their pick.
Okay.
But first, we have an army of people to come out while the Bears make their pick. Okay. Where are these people from? They've got to be some kind of organization or foundation. Don EJ? Is he sounding out the name because it's too hard to say? Those are elementary school kids?
Yeah, well, they are in Chicago there. So
Maybe I'm just reading it wrong, but it seems like elementary kids are a lot bigger than they used to be.
yeah, some of them look pretty young.
Who? Jonathan Bullard.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about him being a first round pick as well.
Well, they said the guy said defensive end, but it's saying he's a defensive tackle.
Well, he's a 3-4 defensive end, 4-3 defensive tackle.
All right, so for the Bears, I am assuming that means he would be a tackle.
He is a defensive. He will play. Well, I think they run a little bit of a 3-4, so they will be. He'll be a defensive end.
Okay.
Basically he'll play inside and outside both. So.
Okay, here's Miami, and the pick is in, so this shouldn't take too long. Okay, so who did Miami bring out to talk about how awesome they are?
I wish they'd let fans do it. I would nominate myself to do it. I think they had a contest or something a couple of years ago with that, but
I didn't hear anything about that this year.
Well, I think they only pick like season ticket holders, so that ruled me out.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people there. I'm not buying no more season tickets until they win. So Miami better find a way to win and quick. Okay, so no little army for the Dolphins. Just a guy standing next to Troy Vincent. Oh, Ronnie Brown.
Oh, it's Ronnie Brown.
Ronnie Brown. He was a nice guy. I met him at the Jason Taylor Foundation event.
They're doing Walter Payton Men of the Year nominees previously.
Kenyon Drake, a running back out of Alabama.
Yeah, that makes sense. I knew I called you guys and I said they had to go running back, but I didn't know they'd go Drake. Isn't he more of a he's a faster back, isn't he?
Well, let me get on Twitter and see what's being said.
But
he's a third down change of pace guy.
That would mean he's Derrick Henry's backup, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but the benefit there is less miles.
I mean,
so let me say less mileage.
Kenyon Drake is 6'2", 210. Watch some footage on him, see how he runs here. So he's taller than he makes. Like, he's fast. I see him ripping off home runs here.
Some believe that Drake is better than his teammate.
Wow, he's fast. I can see guys right now. I don't know what his 40 time was, but I'm watching his footage. He's ripped off a lot of touchdown runs.
Okay, so just for the record, Ian is very much